If you may remain upstanding, we're going to have a prayer from Anita Nuwasima.
Let's humble ourselves for a word of prayer. Almighty Father, we thank you for a gift of life. We thank you for this gathering today. Grant us wisdom and clarity as we share ideas, make decisions, and shape a future that promotes connection, innovation, and service to society. Bless the discussions of this forum, guide every leader present, and may your efforts contribute to the growth, collaboration, and positive impact for the communities and the nation. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. Please take your seats. Once again, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Cold room. There was breakfast on the outside. Once again, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here on time. My name is Moses Rudende, and I'll be running the ship today. Before we go any further, I'd like to recognize some people in the room. We are joined by members of the board of the Telecomunications Commission. The chair of the board is with us. Good morning, ma'am. Mr. Katurebe is in the house as well. Good morning, sir. The ED of UCC is in the house, Honorable Nyomi Tembo. Thank you for your presence, sir. As well as so many other MDAs and ISPs, MNOs, and I'd like to recognize them, not in order of precedence, but alphabetically. Airtel Uganda is in the house. Good morning. Baobab Uganda is in the house as well. Very good morning to you, ma'am. BCS Group. There you are. Looking lovely as ever. Good morning. Bookheaded TV is in the house. C Squared is in the house as well. C Squared is also chair of the ISP Association of Uganda. Good morning, sir. Thank you very much. Gilat Telecom. Thank you for coming. Leica Mobile is in the house as well. A very good morning to you. The Ministry of Local Government. We appreciate your presence here. MTN Uganda is in the house as well, ably represented. Thank you very much for coming through. Netis Uganda Limited. We see you, we appreciate you. The Office of the Prime Minister is here as well, ably represented as well. Soliton Telmec, Tokyo Mobile. UEDCL is in the house as well. Thank you for coming. Uganda Wildlife Authority, we do appreciate you as well. Wananchi Group of Companies and Simbanet. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask a very dangerous question, but don't see it as anything but in jest. How many of you have complained about an ISP with the MD in the room? Don't start now. Today is all about honest conversation. And I think at the end of this day, we'll realize that the word telecommunications might be inadequate to describe what they actually do because they're such an integral part of our economy. And to help us make sense of that, allow me to invite the head of competition at the Uganda Communications Commission, Mr. Mbaga Tuzinde.
Good morning to you. Good morning. Welcome to the second Telecomunications Ceo Forum. Our inaugural forum was in March of last year. We did talk about many things, but at the time it was about the CEOs and the consumer advocacy groups. Today, we have the CEOs of the telecommunication companies. We have the advocacy groups, but we also have major MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies that provide service or that have something to do with telecommunication. So the discussion will be between the three. And in terms of my remarks, I'm going to do a short presentation. It's not a speech, to give background to what we are looking at. I'll share a few statistics, also look at a few challenges, and summarize what we discussed last year, the action matrix. Now, in terms of figures, we have a fiber network, 71,740 kilometers. These figures are as at end of March. Then we have 5,500 towers, 61.6 registered subscribers. Of those, the active ones are 47.5. That's within 90 days. Active mobile internet subscribers, we have 18 million. Mobile money active users, 36.7 million. And 250,000 fixed internet subscribers. Smartphones, we have 20.3 million smartphones. Of course, these figures set background to what we shall be discussing. Now, I go direct to the challenges, because the challenges partly is what we shall be discussing here, maybe proposing solutions. Now, and this is as seen from the regulator, because we interact with the operators, the consumers, and as regulators, we also have our own challenges. So for the operators, the issues to do with high infrastructure deployment costs, and then power and maintenance constraints. For most of the operators, especially the infrastructure providers, power can be up to 50% of the operational costs, especially if they are off-grid. And then you have issues of right-of-way delays. There are so many requirements from the different agencies for right-of-way. And then we also have competition from over-the-top technology platforms. For the consumers, affordability remains a challenge. And then the uneven coverage. You have the urban-rural divide. Most of our operators are concentrated in the urban areas, and the rural do not have as much service. We also have limited smartphone access and service quality constraints. For the regulator, some of these are direct to the operators. We have issues to do with reporting and standardization of data. And then service obligations, some of them in terms of compliance, they are missing gaps. Now, going direct to what was discussed in March last year, we came up with a matrix, and it's good to update in terms of progress as far as action is concerned. We had different thematic areas. The customer service, there were issues to do with the telecom call center accessibility and responsiveness. And there was commitment, or the action points was invest, deploy, and promote technologies that should help consumers. And also the need to review the complaints handling guidelines and specifically facilitate familiarization visits of the consumer advocacy groups to the call centers of the operators, because at the time the discussion was we usually make phone calls to the telecom operators, but the feeling of what happens back end they did not have, and as the representatives of the customers, they thought maybe they should know one or two more things. Now, in terms of status, the Communications Commission is upgrading its call center, and the operators have also introduced, actually most of the operators, for you, the consumers, the customers, I think you realize this in terms of contact. They've introduced chatbots as alternative self-help measures. Now, in terms of complaints handling guidelines, the Commission is in the process of revamping the call center. This is work in progress. And for the familiarization tour, it did happen. The advocacy groups with UCC visited all the call centers of the MNOs. And in this room now, they know much better than before. Moving to transparency and service offers, we agreed to enhance the consumer awareness on terms and conditions for the customers. What happened is that at the time there was outcry that consumers didn't know their terms and obligations, or the companies were not providing these terms and conditions. Now, in terms of status, in collaboration with the telecom operators, UCC has conducted regional dialogues in the different regions of Uganda, and the Commission is also publishing regularly the prices and tariffs for the different operators. And we hope by doing so, the transparency is higher up there. Now, there were issues of mobile money fraud, and BOE was in the room. Enhancement of security measures and improving collaboration between banks and telecoms, and then enhance consumer awareness on digital financial safety, then explore adoption of artificial intelligence solutions and integration of national databases into KYC. Now, as far as the status is concerned, the sector has formed the Anti-Fraud Committee, comprising of BOU, UCC, UBA. There's work in progress in as far as fraud is concerned. Actually, today there's even a meeting to discuss the same things. Fraud keeps mutating, so it's always on the go. Then UCC, together with BOU, conducted regional talk shows across the nation on mobile money fraud and digital safety. And the Ministry of ICT is leading the preparation of strategy in as far as AI is concerned. All the MNOs have integrated their databases with the KYC. This will be a topic for further discussion during the course of today. And then there's also work going around the integration with the new NIRA, the ID system. There are challenges moving from the old to the new, but this is going on. It will be discussed in detail later today. Moving to personal data protection risks, action points, that's enhancing customer awareness on personal data security, then training for operator agents in customer data handling. For the first we have a data protection office, and there's been a number of workshops held on data protection. What is work in progress is the training for operators in customer data handling, and I believe the Bank of Uganda will be providing more clarity during the course of discussion. In terms of pricing issues, well, to facilitate engagement between telecoms and banks to review transaction charges. This is happening. There's been a benchmarking trip to some of the regional countries because we are looking at how these charges can lower, and also the interoperability bit of it. Then promotion of consumer education on data usage and pricing. Then protect customer notification on purchase, consumption, and balance, and expand packaging of data options. Usually this is in as far as these make business sense. We've encouraged the MNOs and other ISPs to provide different alternatives to the customers. And you realize maybe over the past 1 year, there are so many products, so many possibilities that a customer can explore in as far as they make business sense. And there was a thematic area, network coverage. Here, initiate multi-stakeholder collaboration between the communities, local government, MDAs, and operators on awareness, and then enhancement of investment in infrastructure performance, tracking, boosting, and backup solutions. Here, we've been working with the MNOs and the TowerCos, and we launched the Tochigeza campaign. This area was largely to do with vandalism, which still remains one of those major challenges for the sector. But we are taking it on, collaborating in terms of campaigns, but in terms of also working with the infrastructure companies and MNOs to prosecute whoever is involved in that activity. Then there were issues to do with uncoordinated deployment of internet infrastructure. In terms of status, as a first step, we've issued guidelines on fiber installations and pole sharing. And we've also had several engagements. The Ministry of ICT is also coordinating this activity so that there's alignment in as far as deployment of infrastructure is concerned. This is also a topic for discussion later. And then there were things to do with the community perceptions about the risks that the infrastructure deployment presents to the communities. Now this is awareness. It has been happening. Major radio stations and around, even the newspapers. Coming to thematic area number 4, about SIM cards, industry engagement on SIM card churn processes, regulatory engagements on SIM churn processes. We also launched a national campaign on SIM card regulations, which covers registration and churn related issues. And thematic area number 5 was the widespread use of devices which undermines consumer protection and national security efforts. So in terms of action points, we are supposed to strengthen industry and stakeholder collaboration.
Basaza, the chairman of the board of UCC, and Engineer Agoy is also a board member of the UCC. My colleagues, the CEOs of the telecom companies, I can see 2 CEOs of the NTOs, I can see Sehu, I can see Slivia, I can see Laika. Where is Laika? Laika, I can see Hamilton, Tokyo, I can see Blue Crane, and others. So some of you I can't see very well. So you are welcome, all colleagues, the CEOs of telecom companies, ladies and gentlemen, especially the media who always help us to put forward the messages to the communities we serve. When this forum was first held last year, it provided a valuable platform for constructive dialogue between telecommunications CEOs and the consumers, underscoring the importance of bridging gaps and fostering stronger relationships among stakeholders within the communications ecosystem. The decision to convene this forum again this year reflects our shared commitment to sustaining that engagement. It marks another important step in our collective journey to enhance the quality of service in Uganda's communication sector while strengthening consumer protection and trust. This year's theme, Partnerships Powering Progress, from coverage expansion and meaningful access to digital government excellency, is therefore particularly fitting. It reminds us that expanding connectivity, deepening meaningful access, and advancing digital government cannot be achieved in isolation, but through strong partnerships and shared commitment among regulators, operators, consumers, and other stakeholders. For many years, the UCC has been at the forefront of consumer engagement initiatives guided by its statutory mandate and commitment to consumer welfare and protection. Over time, however, we recognize that achieving greater impact requires the active involvement of key decision makers in these conversations. This realization shaped our strategy of creating more inclusive engagement platforms that bring together consumers and industry leaders to address concerns, strengthen accountability, and improve service delivery across the communication sector. Today, we have set out to advance this agenda by bringing together the chief executive officers and top executives of our telecom companies with the very consumers they serve. In so doing, we are taking a decisive step towards accountability, transparency, and improved service delivery in the telecommunications subsector. The Telecom CEO Consumer Forum is a dynamic platform designed to foster direct dialogue between decision makers and end users of telecom services. In facilitating this conversation, our objective is to secure clear commitments on critical issues such as service quality, inclusivity, safety, privacy, affordability, and innovation. Our overriding goal is to ensure that every voice is heard and every concern is addressed at the highest level of the industry. UCC, as you know, has a dual mandate of promoting growth in the communication sector while safeguarding consumer interest. We do not view these responsibilities as contradictory. Rather, bringing telecom CEOs and consumer together demonstrates that sector growth and consumer protection are mutually reinforcing goals, not zero-sum games in which one side must lose for another to gain. Allow me to commend the government of Uganda for championing a conducive legal, policy, and regulatory framework that has brought us this far. 2 decades ago, when the government embarked on the liberalization of the telecom sector, there were an estimated 30,000 active phone lines in the whole country. for the entire population of approximately 20 million people then. Today, with a population of 46 million, Uganda has active 47.1 million mobile subscribers with close to 18 million mobile internet subscription. Impressive how this growth might sound, the journey is still long and difficult. Far too many people remain without connectivity, and yet our vision is to see a digitally inclusive economy that leaves no one behind. Many others have affordability concerns for both data and smart devices. The quality of service also remains an issue of concern in some areas. Yet, Uganda looks to leverage ICTs to leapfrog economic transformation of bottlenecks. With reliable and affordable telecom services, we can transform our communities through improved communication, job creation, better social service delivery, modern agriculture, industrialization, etc. Our challenge, therefore, is to ensure greater investment in terms of infrastructure to attain greater capacity and wider coverage so as to meet this ever-increasing demand for communication services of high quality. I urge all our telecom operators to raise to this challenge. As regulators, we acknowledge the challenges operators face and the concerns consumers express in equal measure. To align the two, there is need to dialogue between service providers and consumers, ultimately paving the way for a more transparent and accountable industry. This forum aims to support efforts in that direction. I therefore thank all CEOs and consumer groups that have accepted our invitation to join us here today. Your participation in this initiative is crucial as it has opened a new chapter of constructive stakeholder engagement, ultimately leading to better service delivery. Our shared objective is clear: to build an ICT ecosystem where decision makers and consumers work hand in hand. It is through these meaningful, high-level engagements that we can make consumer protection a lived reality within our telecommunication landscape. I conclude, I invite each one of us to actively participate, share our insights, and embrace the opportunity to shape the future of our industry. Let this dialogue serve as a catalyst for positive change. For God and my country, I thank you.
I have two questions before I ask the next question, so bear with me. Has anybody not had coffee or a bite? Anyone? I will send you a dedicated waiter. Please raise your hand wherever you are. Okay, I see one. Chief. Two. Okay. 3, 4, 5. Don't worry about it. They're coming to you. Secondly, do we all remember that song we sang when we were 5 years old? If you're happy and you know, clap your hands. Please put your hands together for the Executive Director of Uganda Communications Commission, Honorable Nyombi Tembo. We're here to have a great discussion. Mr. Tuzinde, you projected here quite the elaborate presentation with all these facts and figures. But I want to even go a step further and ask you, what is the price of success in the telecom sector? There are no wrong answers. What would you say is the price of success, sir, in the telecom sector? Member of the board. There are no wrong answers, sir. I would go as far as to say the price of success in the telecom sector is invisibility. When you're doing everything right, nobody is complaining. You're powering banking, you're powering education, you're powering logistics, you're powering governance. And that's really what today is about. Increasingly, you are powering opportunity itself right here in Uganda. And I feel like that deserves a round of applause for yourselves. The numbers that Mr. Mbaga shared, they tell a remarkable story. But does that matter to the end consumer? Do they really care? That's a question that we need to ask today if we're going to have an honest conversation. Because despite all the growth, there's still difficult questions that we must answer today. Because today's customer expects you as the telco to be a call center, to be a crisis response team, to be a content platform, a digital gateway, all the above. So at the end of the day, does telecommunications suit the purpose anymore, or should we evolve that word to something else? I will leave that to you. There are many issues that are being faced by the telecom sector. Mr. Tuzinde pointed them out: infrastructure, vandalism. I believe he mentioned rural connectivity, cybersecurity. And yes, those might be shared national challenges. But for the consumer, and I feel like that's what we need to answer over the next 2 hours, are you expanding coverage fast enough? Is access becoming meaningfully affordable? Keyword here being affordable, accessible. Is infrastructure sharing moving quickly enough? So allow me to set the ball rolling. We're going to have a conversation, and we'll see whether Ugandans, ordinary Ugandans, feel that the digital future is actually reaching them. Once again, thank you for coming to the second Telecom CEOs Forum. Clap for yourselves. I stand here as moderator, but more importantly, I am your customer. And there's certain things that I expect, especially when it comes to the kind of relationship that we have. People pay you their money and they expect a service. Sometimes that service does not work the way they want it to, through no fault of yours or their own. But let's discuss that. The Ministry of Local Government is in the house. Good morning to you, sir. There's a microphone in front of you. Good morning to you, sir. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning, moderator.
Yes, sir. Let me ask, when it comes to permits, obtaining permits, especially when it comes to a system like ours where there are multiple authorities that need to grant you certain permissions and certain access, what would it take to have, I believe URA has what they call a single window. What would it take to have a single window? And when it comes to permitting, who would take lead in that process? Ministry of Local Government. How do you think the process of awarding permits can be more efficient and more coordinated?
I will not go too well, Mr. Moderator.
Permits. All these ISPs require permits to go and put on their poles, especially when it comes to putting them in your areas of jurisdiction. But there's so many agencies that are awarding these permits. How can we make that process more coordinated? Do we need a single window where everybody comes, like with URA, you come, you pay, you move from this desk to this desk, and then you exit? What do you think we need to make it more efficient as a process?
Yeah, I think we need a unified approach, and actually what you have already said, a single window is very important for all agencies and customers to access all the services that they go without getting fragmented to different MDAs, institutions like that. I think a unified approach would be very important. And I think Ministry of ICT and UCC would be the lead.
When it comes to an intergovernment collaboration, an effort to make that process more streamlined.
Yes, yes.
I'd like to recognize the presence of C Squared. C Squared is in the house. C Squared, please raise your hand. They're also chair of the ISP Association of Uganda. Thank you, sir, for gracing us with your time. Let me ask, in many urban areas, at least for me as a consumer, I see multiple poles. You've seen that phenomenon. You're driving, you see maybe 6 or 7 poles grouped together, each of them a different ISP, all running along the same route, which I believe raises a question around infrastructure sharing. What would you say is making that collaboration between operators more difficult? And how can we ease that process, sir? Somebody could get him a microphone. She seems to be having microphone trouble. Technical desk, if I could have a microphone with the chairman of the ISP Association of Uganda.
Taking infrastructure for granted. The mics, we had to switch through mics. Mr. Moderator, thank
Yes,
you
sir.
very much. Correction, I am the chair of the Telecom Transitions Working Group, not the ISPA.
I do beg your pardon.
To your question, the challenge, and correct me if I've sidestepped the question, but the challenge of multiple poles and whatever, I think it starts with having a functioning framework or a guideline in place. Yeah? And then let's have the industry leaning into that and be able to abide. And the problem we have currently, with all due respect to our regulator, didn't just land on us. We simply chose to do the wrong thing. Now, it is incumbent upon us to then elect to do the right thing. And it starts by having a framework in place that then guides all of us. But having said that, you asked a question in the beginning that in the theme, what are the more important words there? I think it's meaningful access. The consumer is demanding of so many things, rightly so. We are under immense pressure to deliver to that, but at what cost? The consumer is demanding depressing costs every year. Do we get to ask ourselves questions like, what is the input side of these businesses? So access, yes. Meaningful, there's a question mark, and I hope we will discuss that. But it starts by having a framework we all respect that speaks into things like infrastructure sharing, which you've just hinted about, and we all abide by that. In case we have a difficulty in conceptualizing that, let's step aside and ask ourselves, what would it look like if everybody who had money was allowed to build a road? And therein lies why we should have guidelines that don't just exist, but guidelines that provide the guardrails to then make it a point never to repeat the clutter that we see today. Thank you very much.
Right. Before I let you go, sir, say in an ideal world what you have proposed happens. What then do you think that deeper infrastructure sharing looks like over the next 5 years?
Before we peer into the future, we need to be honest enough to ask ourselves, how do we clean what needs to be cleaned now? And then make a commitment that this will not happen again. Because if we don't ask ourselves or demand of ourselves to make that very important shift, we will bleed. And through that bleeding, we will not be able to commit to meaningful access. And let's not kid ourselves. Those of us that are in infrastructure play, it's not choir practice. We are bleeding. And when we all bleed, several things happen. The quality goes down, meaningful access suffers. So, peering into 5 years from now, it's let's commit to do the right things. And what do right things look like? Let's have a framework that we all respect. Let's try and let's try and lean into the positives out of sharing our infrastructure. Let's partner where we don't have to duplicate what we're already doing now, and then lean into our business plans to then make this a success for all of us. And it can be done because we have communities where this, and this duplication is not only happening here. There are communities that have done that. They have bled, they have realized they need to do better going forward, and they have done that. It can be done here as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Please put your hands together for the Chair. Sometimes you think as a layman, and you think to yourself, okay, if we had one pole run by one person and everybody rents on that pole, or if we had somebody run a service conduit, maybe KCCA, maybe Ministry of Local Government, and everybody else uses the same conduit, and that way we won't see people digging up roads every so often. Maybe that could work. At the end of the day, I hope that we have the answers to that. MTN Uganda and Airtel Uganda in the house, thank you for your presence here. MTN Momo and Airtel Money in the house as well. How are you doing, sir? How are you doing, sir? Good. I want to talk complaint resolution for a second. Yeah, they didn't want to ask the question, so they sent me. Let me ask. You experience as a consumer. Yes, sir. Sorry, the ED of Uganda Communications Commission.
Yeah, sorry, to take you back, the issue of infrastructure sharing, I think is something on which we put our mind so much in the past 3 or so years. So I think from a regulatory point of view, this is something we are really putting our minds to. Actually, now I can tell you, if you went to some of the roads, we've put our efforts together, the regulator, the telecom operators, and KCCA to solve this problem. And I want to answer your question of saying what would happen peering in next 5 years. 5 years could even be far, because now a number of roads that are being constructed, the ducts are being provided. That was a very big problem. The ducts are being provided. I've had feedback that the ducts are not big enough to handle the service providers.
Okay.
That's a good feedback, which we'll take back to the concerned the agencies. But we are handling this, and I was telling that if you went to some of the roads now, which really had this clutter, like Babiha Road, Acacia, I think we used to call it Acacia Avenue.
Yeah.
I think it was the top culprit of this.
Yes, at many points.
If you went there now, you'll be surprised to see the cleaning. There's another road in Bunga. Is Engineer Alfred Bogere in the house? Or anybody who has a subject matter expert from infrastructure?
Ministry
I
of
want to
Works?
give the specifics. Acacia Avenue, and I think a road in Bunga also, where this has cleaned up, and we are moving.
Okay.
But let's give it a perspective. Was somebody sleeping on their job when this happened? The answer is no. You know, public policy follows problems. Was it a problem then to have so many poles to do, because those poles are not there for cosmetics. The poles are there to deliver a service. So what was the problem? There was a problem to be solved then, which was more important than the beauty of our neighborhoods then. So the beauty of our neighborhood then was secondary to the problem that was being solved, right? So now that that problem is being solved, beauty is taking now precedence, and public policy is coming into this. We are putting up frameworks now to see how to solve this. So nobody was sleeping on their job. The issue that there was a problem of connectivity, the market reacted, the operators reacted, the guidance that would have come, you have to be very careful dealing with the private sector. You have to be very careful when you are guiding, because you don't want to be a regulator that disrupts the dynamics of the market until when the problem should be solved. But now, since now it's a problem, we are solving it. Also, because when people say infrastructure sharing, it's like, it's only this thing that we just tell Airtel share with the Blue Crane, but there are a lot of cost dynamics. When you share, who takes which cost, who bears which cost, quality of service, how is it going to be assured when I'm not self-carrying myself and somebody else is carrying me? A lot of things which we are dealing with as regulators. But my subject matter expert, Engineer Rebecca Mukite, you can come in to clarify more.
Thank you very much, Edie. And indeed, there's been a lot of effort that has gone into resolving the issue. And just like the Edie has mentioned, indeed, this is a good problem to have, because it manifests that consumers now have options. When you have multiple cables running to your home, it means you have options.
This is true.
But with regard to solving that duplicity of the infrastructure, there's no magic bullet, because we have to look at this from two dimensions. As the regulator, we have to look at it from one, solving the problem where there's already duplicity, and then also preventing that from reoccurring.
Yes.
So the framework was just the starting point. And after the framework, we now have to work with the industry to create a roadmap of this transition. And the roadmap is really to ensure that we can solve this problem without causing disruption to service.
Okay.
And again, there's no magic bullet that will address this for all operators, because they have different extents of fiber or infrastructure that has been laid out.
Okay.
So the plan has to be customized or negotiated separately with each provider, so that we see the person who entered the market last year and someone who has been in the market for the last 10 years cannot have the same footprint, and therefore their actions or milestones have to be negotiated in a differentiated manner.
Yeah.
So all those are work in progress, and I believe that the timeline we've given ourselves, just like the ED has mentioned, in 5 years we should have good progress, even in these other neighborhoods, because we'll have better visibility and understanding of what the different stakeholders can do, can accommodate with minimum disruption to service.
Okay.
Thank you.
It feels like so you've spoken about a framework. Yeah. And the framework, I feel, is, from what I'm hearing, for the greater Kampala metropolitan area. Would I be right to assume that this is going to be benchmarked upcountry in municipals as well?
So the framework is a national instrument. It's not for the greater Kampala area. It should be applicable countrywide. However, the transition roadmap is being done in steps or benchmarked in different areas, because some areas have roads with ducts, some
Yes.
areas don't have roads with ducts. So again, there are different, the framework stipulates that if we are to use ducts, this is the standard. If we are to use the wooden poles, this is the standard. If we are to use the concrete poles, it's the standard. So that framework is going to be implemented in a consultative way and in an adaptable way depending on which area we are talking about. And it can't happen in the entire, for example, Greater Kampala metropolitan area at the same time. It has to be taken in a progressive way. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Rebecca. Engineer Rebecca is from UCC. Thank you very much. We're talking about quality of service next, especially when it comes to consumer protection in the area of mobile money. We have Airtel Money in the house. We have MTN Momo in the house as well. Customers experience a delay in transaction. Maybe they have a mobile money issue. There's a popular one these days, which I see the biggest complaint being on social media, reversals. And then you see the illusion of social media is that it gives you the feeling that my resolution is going to be instant in real time. However, there are processes to that, especially when it comes to uncertainty of resolution to their problem. Maybe if you could give us a sense of that, and I'll start with MTN Momo. What does the current process look like on your side when it comes to resolutions of customer complaints?
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Thank you, Dennis. My name is Dennis Kakonge from MTN Mobile Money. So it's typical that we have customers who send erroneous transactions to another party, and we experience this a lot. In terms of the resolution process, sometimes it's immediate, and we have different channels that are available to the customers. You can self-initiate a reversal. If the money has been sent to the wrong person, I mean, you could have sent it to, intended to send it to someone else, but then you have a wrong digit that appears in the transaction. The beauty about it is that the customer can see the names of the recipient, but let's say it goes ahead and makes that transaction. So the reversal can be immediate. You can initiate the reversal yourself as a customer, and the monies will be blocked and subsequently reversed. But there are also instances where a customer sends money to, maybe you're making a payment. We have to go through a process of verifying that this transaction was actually not meant for that kind of service, for a payment. And our customer service teams that are available 24 hours would reach out and go through a process of verifying that actually that the customer that received that money did not receive it erroneously, and that could take some time. So from an SLA perspective, it can be immediate. We have an SLA of 24 hours, but if we go through the process of verifying and the other customer that received the money takes a bit of time, it could take about 3 to 4 days. So that is the process that we have in place.
Is there a compensation mechanism in place if that goes beyond the stipulated timeline?
Well, we don't have a compensation mechanism for that. We don't have a compensation mechanism.
I'm asking purely as a consumer.
We don't have.
Knock on wood, I haven't sent money to the wrong person yet. Yes. I'll ask the same question to Airtel Money. If you could give us a sense of what your process looks like on the operator side when it comes to complaints and resolutions.
Thank you. And I just want to start by stating that if we just go back 2 years ago, you'll discover that mobile money was predominantly person to person.
Yes.
And in that case, it was very easy to find these many errors were then something to do with the reversal, like my colleague has shared, that the reversal was a major issue. But the business has moved beyond that. Now we have a lot of payment going into other operators. And I'll give you an example, and then I'll share what we have done differently in Airtel. We have a lot of traffic on daily basis going between transactions between us as Airtel Money and UEDCL.
Okay.
And that is the most emotive transaction, if you ask me, outside P2P. Because most of the people who buy a token when the light is off. And any delay there would be a big, big problem. So what we did 2 years ago, we started transactions and we earned and today around which was the big core driver to our call center. And how we achieve this is just investing in the technology, ensuring that we have enough capacity, ensuring that we have moved the service from tradition or the old integrations that we used to have, and having a dedicated what we would call open API that has a retrial mechanism. And should the transaction fail, the money is not debited, and that has given a lot of peace to the consumer. So the approach that we need to do, and that's why we are putting a lot of investment, is in the preventive rather than trying to have the customer call the call center. Why preventive? We have 36.7 million customers. It's not easy to invest in a huge call center that can handle a complaint. So our approach, and this is what we want to guarantee, is to make sure that all these technical issues that used to happen, they are resolved. Should it happen, again, the call center is able to handle. However, the complexity I wanted to bring to the table for the consumer is it's more difficult to deal with a transaction that has cut across multiple platforms. For example, if you do a wallet to bank, and the bank transaction is not credited, if the bank is not efficient, bank will tell you I have to wait until the closure of the day, then reconcile my side before I can authorize for you to complete the transaction. These are some of the things that we are dealing with currently, but we have seen a good progress in terms of again, the same thing we achieved with UEDCL is going to be achieved very soon with the banks. Migrating all the banks to open API for us is a must do, and this is how we want to handle these complaints. Rather than dealing with them, we just want to be more preventive and make sure that transactions are seamless.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Mr. Kakonga, I'd like to come back to you for a second. Increasingly, we're seeing the growth of digital lending products, and I'm sure you have quite a few on your platform. Maybe if you could give us a sense of how you're adapting to ensure consumers are protected while also managing fraud risks in those products.
Thank you, Rudenda. It's interesting that recently we had actually an article that appeared in the papers that talked about the culture of our people in doing a lot of lending products and borrowing. So one thing we have put in place processes to ensure that our customers who do borrow money are protected, and we do a lot of sensitization in them. They do the credit scoring that happens when a customer does a transaction. So it's more about sensitization and letting our customers know that they are able to borrow, whereas they're borrowing this responsibility for responsible borrowing. We also have different sensitization programs that we put out to our customers. We have partnered with the other operators to check the scoring. And we are coming up with a solution where the customers will be able to check based on the NIN of the customer at that level, that you can identify that this customer has gone through a borrowing with another operator. Those are some of the mechanisms to ensure that we have no responsible.
Is working on. If that could also extend to the voice so that you're able also to trap those kind of conversations, it can help us in a big way. But I'll tell you something that I'm seeing, and that's why PIN and SIM swap is a very critical process. Most of the time when someone has lost control of the PIN and the SIM through a SIM swap, before, if you had balances, you are safe because there was nothing to do. But because of the loans, people have now discovered that if I pick I'm able to take control of the SIM, I can actually take a loan even though there was no balance.
Yes.
That is making it a bit complex for many of our consumers. But what have we done again differently? In addition to what Dennis has shared, what we have done is to make sure that we implement something we call cooling period. And I will tell you, it's an inconvenience to the consumer, but the cooling period helps. The cooling period is meant when the SIM has changed. On our platform, we are able to pick that this is a new IMSI. And because it's a new IMSI, the transactions are blocked for a period of 24 hours to give room. Should it be a fraudulent SIM swap, you are able to arrest it before the money disappears. We have gone ahead because sometimes when it comes to the industry, we are safe if everybody is safe. We have gone ahead to give these APIs to all banks because, again, people would lose the SIM card through a SIM swap, then bank transaction would happen. Again, all these things are being done to make sure that we protect the consumer. But consumer awareness and education, just like Dennis is sharing, is very important. So that should you lose control of your phone, immediately you need to complain. You need to call the call center and make sure that you block. Sometimes you have even empowered the customer to take a neighbor's phone and block their SIM card so that the transactions are stopped. So what I'm trying to say, and this is what we need to do as an industry, is to be as preventive as we can and then do a lot of education so that the consumers are aware. And this is the approach we are taking in Airtel Money.
Thank you very much, Airtel Money and MTN Momo. Dennis, you'd like to say something else?
So I would like to add that, like was presented by Mbaga in his presentation, we've partnered with our regulator and the different stakeholders and government agencies on the anti-fraud consortium. So we're working closely with all these agencies to ensure that we work to deal with fraud and collaborate, provide information so that we ensure that anyone who's committed fraud is apprehended and prosecuted through the utilities court. So it's been a mechanism that has been effective because it could affect any of the operators in the market and the banks. And some of those initiatives have borne fruit, and we continue to work together with our regulator, Bank of Uganda. I also wanted to add that in terms of awareness, for example, when you use the MTN Mobile Money app, and I would encourage anyone that's in the room that has an MTN line to download the app, you'll see that there is a banner that appears there, at the front to share, some of the things that you should not do as a customer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kakonge. Thank you very much, Airtel Money. Please put your hands together for them. It's not every day you get to ask a question to the MD of a telco. Madam Sylvia Mulinga, very good morning to you. A lot of what we're talking about today is about driving meaningful access and expanding your services to those who need them and maybe in hard to reach areas. I know you're doing a lot around languages when it comes to people using your self-help menus and the like. But there's a growing conversation around telecom services being more inclusive for persons with disabilities. Could you give us a sense on any practical steps that you are taking to improve accessibility at the service centers and maybe at your customer touchpoints as well?
All right, so great question, and thank you so much for having us here. I think for us, our belief is that everybody deserves the benefits of a modern connected life. So regardless of your ability or inability, you do deserve the access to be able to communicate with your loved ones and access all the digital and financial services that we are providing. So one of the specific actions that we have taken in our call center is that we realize there are quite a number of people who walk into the call center. They're using our services, but they're not able to communicate. So we have invested across the footprint of 22 service centers that we have across the country in training our teams in sign language. And therefore, if you are not able to vocally express yourself, we are able to communicate to you in sign language. And if you go into any of our service centers across the country, you'll be able to find that. But in an interaction that we had a couple of weeks ago with some of the deaf community, they also expressed that they wanted us to also be able to extend the same kind of service onto our call center. This is something that we are jointly co-creating with them. And I'm hopeful that in the near future, the coming days, we'll be able to share something that is being done specifically so that you can have the same experience that you have walking into a call center walking into a service center also being extended to you when you need to reach us via other means. However, what we have also done is to also increase the level of service that we offer through digital channels, such as Ziggy chatbot, so that you don't have to call the call center to actually get supported in terms of service, and also increase the level of service agents that we actually have across all our different social media channels, so that for that community that cannot be able to vocally express themselves, then we can be able to serve them that way. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Sumendra, if I could ask you the same question. What initiatives has Airtel taken to improve inclusivity for people with disability?
Thank you. I think it is a great question. Firstly, we are also an organization who believes in impacting everyone's life. So regardless of from where they belong, this is their ability and all those things. So we want to really impact positively to all the customers and the citizens of the country. And while we have done we have taken various steps across our stores, predominantly it is through training. What we have done is whenever such customers, they visit our stores, so obviously priority is given. But I think it's a nice idea where we need to really reflect, and maybe we can do much more than what we are currently doing. That is what I can tell you. Maybe we can create some ramps, something like for example, who are physically disabled, if we can create a ramp in our stores, so where they can really commute easily. Even in the app side also, I think we can think some innovative thing. We can use AI also. This is a nice idea where I think while listening to Sylvia, I was just thinking if we can integrate AI in our call center and even our app, so that we can really engage these people, so that we can really impact their lives. But thank you for this.
Thank you for that. I mean, you've both spoken about people who are hard of hearing, and rightly so. 2% of our population, by the way, is hard of hearing. And I'm a firm believer that, yes, we've introduced Swahili to the curriculum, but sign language should be taught at least until P4, so you can speak with the 1.5 million people who are hard of hearing in this country. But you made a very interesting point as well, and I was waiting for somebody to mention that. From Kitgum House, say till Watoto, KPC, that's the length and breadth of our CBD. Totally aside, in your free time, you can go and have a look. How many buildings, besides banks, have wheelchair access and are government institutions? And are your stores? Food for thought. I'll leave that one to you. Thank you very much. Please put your hands together for the MDs of Airtel and MTN. UEDCL, please wave at me. How are you doing this morning, ma'am? I'd like to stand in the gap for you for a second. When we had a power disruption here, it was not UEDCL. It was people plugging naked wires into the wall units. Again, please use the extension cables provided on the floor. But one of the issues that doesn't get enough public attention is the cost of powering telecom infrastructure. And I'm sure you guys have dealt with it quite a bit. Network reliability is very closely linked with power reliability. Is it not?
Yes, it is.
So then let me ask you, as the demand is growing for digital services, how are the energy stakeholders working with the telcos to strengthen the ability of that critical infrastructure? Because like we rightly said, it's not just telcos anymore. They're powering governance, education, banking, logistics, and so many other things. In fact, our lives are so integrated into the telcos and the internet that we struggle to remember a time, unless, of course, if you're a boomer, you struggle to remember a time before the internet. Please.
Okay, thank you so much. And as UEDCL, we do acknowledge the fact that there are challenges with the network infrastructure. In the current state, we have a lot of increased demand. Demand is standing at around 1,200 MV. Of course, the generators will tell us that we have a generating capacity of around 1,300. Still, we have a minimal gap to feel working with the generators. But when you look at the infrastructure that UEDCL sits on right now, majority of it is aged. And majority of the issues that we're experiencing now are capacity issues too. So as UEDCL, we are working with government of Uganda. They've provided a lot of funding, and we are upgrading substations. If you go on Entebbe Road right now, we have a plan to upgrade the Chigo substation. If you look at the Gaza Road lane, we've been having a lot of outage issues there because we need a substation, and we are working to upgrade it to, we're going to have, I think, Majije substation coming on board. We still have well-live issues in there with the communities where the lines are going to pass. So there is a lot of network upgrade happening in terms of the substation. If you look at Masaka Road, we are looking at upgrading Buloba, which has been commissioned and yet to start possibly in the next 2 weeks. And we believe that all that we're going to do is going to improve supply to the country, and in essence also have the telecoms benefit from that. But of course, as an organization too, we are upgrading transformers. We're doing a lot of transformer injections. Reconductoring the network. And of course, the telecoms have also faced issues with their transformers being off. We are ensuring that their transformers are replaced. And vegetation clearance. If you look at the vegetation, when the rains come in, a lot of the trees that are interfering with our network, in most cases, will cause power to go off 90%, as opposed to even the infrastructure network affecting the supply reliability. So we have a plan to ensure that vegetation is cleared together with the contractors coming on board to boost the capability, to boost the staff numbers that we have, to ensure that reliable supply is availed. So I just want to give you hope that a lot of works are in the background to ensure that you have reliable supply of electricity.
It's funny you should mention way leaves, because at the beginning I spoke about way leaves and permits, but I was speaking only from the digital infrastructure side. Ministry of Local Government is in the house, as well as Uganda Wildlife Authority and NEMA. They're also in the house. Maybe they could work with you to have a more efficient process when it comes to awarding you these permits?
Okay.
Huh?
Yes.
If you haven't asked, they're in the house right now. Uganda Wildlife Authority is over there, Ministry of Local Government as well. OPM is in the house.
Okay, indeed, we'll work with so many of the stakeholders. And for those that we have not contacted, we will be in touch with them to ensure that we work together for seamless, well-live approach.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I'd like to come back to the Executive Director of Uganda Communications Commission. There's a question that just came to my head. Should we start looking at telecom infrastructure as priority national infrastructure when we are planning, alongside power planning as well?
Definitely. If you don't take telecom infrastructure as critical national infrastructure, then you are losing it. You're losing out. Very, very critical.
Yes, sir.
Very, very critical. Actually, in the amended law, we are really going to give telecom infrastructure the front seat it deserves in the whole ecosystem. Very, very critical. There's no doubt about that.
True. Especially with the digitization of so many government services as well.
Definitely. Definitely.
Thank you, Honorable Tembo. I'd like to come back to the mobile money people. It's very important. When are we going to have you together in the same room again? At the third Telecom Forum. But I have you here today. A lot of the rural communities, sometimes they struggle with liquidity challenges. I don't know how many times you've walked to an agent and they tell you, Tetuina float. We don't have, you guys have heard that, eh? We don't have float. And if we're going to bank the unbanked, quote unquote, there needs to be some kind of, can I call it liquidity assistance to the people who are up country. What are you doing about that? I'll start with Airtel Money.
First, I want also to share with you my view.
Yes.
And why there are challenges in mobile money as opposed to the traditional FMCG products.
Okay.
In an FMCG situation, a retailer can tell how many brands they are going to push or how many sodas they can buy
Yes.
at any given day. the challenge with our service, which works almost like FMCG, is you can't predict. You can't tell what demand will be there today, because you could wake up in the rural area with 500,000. One customer walks in and they want that 500,000. You are done.
Imagine it's a village full of us.
And it's a village full of customers, and especially when some of us visited the villages over the weekend, then we distort the ecosystem.
Yes.
So one of the things that then we have had to look at is how efficient can we supply in those rural areas. You discover that for those who have been visiting the rural areas, every place where we are putting a new site,
yes,
as a teleco, we are also trying to provide a Airtel Money branch. And the idea of the Airtel Money branch is to be able to rebalance the agent within a very reasonable distance, and purely to address this unpredictability of how much will be demanded. But that does not solve the equation, because again, our flow of money, you will find that in urban centers like Kampala, most of the service that is demanded is predominantly deposits.
Yes.
And in the rural areas, then is cash.
Yes.
Until maybe the ecosystem develops beyond that. We are trying to figure out what we could do, because in these rural areas, you discover that we have companies like Lato Milk that will also supply milk in the rural areas, and they collect cash. How do we then get them to dump that cash into those rural areas rather than carry it back to the centers? So there is a lot of thinking, there is a lot of work to be done there. I cannot say that we have perfected it, but the way we are building the infrastructure and the way we are putting the rebalancing centers within the local areas, we have seen a significant improvement on our side. But it's a complex area. Let me say something that we have to continue to dig out and try to figure out what is the best way forward. And the more we think broadly in terms of, if, for example, the demand of cash is there, who else is having cash in that area that need to leave that cash in that rural area, and then we transfer that money digitally for them, that will solve the bigger part of the problem. So from on Airtel Money side, we are very, very cognizant of this issue, and a lot of effort is being done to make sure that we resolve it. We do not suffer that problem all the time. I will tell you during public holidays, and I will tell you why I'm saying during public holidays is that is the time many people tend to go into the rural areas, and then in that case you find the demand is more skewed towards high value transactions. But that's what I can say for now. Thank you.
Mr. Kakonga, I'll ask you the same question. Those mobile money agents are usually the first port of call for financial inclusion. Are there current support systems you have for your agents in underserved communities?
Thank you, Dende. First of all, I'll associate myself with what Japheth has said. I think this is liquidity is an issue, and we continuously work towards improving that liquidity, because we feel the pain also from a customer point of view if they go to the agent and they're not able to get that liquidity or not able to withdraw. Like he said, most of the withdrawals are done up country. We see most of the flow of the cash from the central areas and to the rural areas. So we've got mechanisms in place to, first of all, support our agents. We do engage them on a regular basis to support them on liquidity. We have the agent has to get the cash from a bank, get the withdrawals, and also we have support systems in our distribution channels where they can get that liquidity. So it's a continuous journey, and we continuously engage with our agents to ensure that that is done. So there's also an issue of visibility, yes, which we continuously put out there so that you can easily access an agent touch point. We have over 230 agents in the market, and there's got to be ease of access for our customers. So we'd like to see mobile money as an everyday currency, and we have to walk this journey together along with the agents and the customers.
Okay. Let me ask, he mentioned weekends, probably Champions League nights as well. We know that there's a spike in demand at that time. Mr. Kakonga, maybe you could give us a sense, if you can. How do you monitor service performance in these communities and know when to step in and give them this little boost, so to speak? Besides Champions League nights and weekends and Christmas and Easter,
Yeah.
ED and the like, yes.
Okay, so we are in a digital era, so we have a lot of data that we have available to be able to do data mining and can tell which areas need support. So we are able to look at which areas need support, which areas need to get liquidity, which areas need have service gaps. So we do this analytics on a regular basis, so that we ensure we improve our service to the customer. That would be my simple answer.
All right. Japheth.
I just want to hand in and thank you because this Sunday will be a tough one because Arsenal is taking the cup, and with this obviously there will be a lot of demand.
Yes.
People trying to also excitement to create some skewed demand. It's also a very interesting period because of back to school. The demand for float is very high. So what we do, definitely most of the distributors we have, they have capacity. It's a matter of reminding them, and there's a lot of communication to tell them now to supply in the market. And what we monitor is actually how many agents they are servicing, because that's how we can measure from the back end how many agents they are servicing. So there is mechanism, and specifically for the agents, we have offered them now a loan facility sometimes, like an overdraft facility, so that you can do a deposit when you do not have enough float to service the customer. So that is an area that we think we'll have to continue to invest in. For the cash, as I said, is where the challenge is. Float is easier to fix. Cash is more difficult because it's physical. So there is the beauty of technology. It enables us to be able to predict also and be able to see where the gaps are likely to be felt and fix it proactively. So that's what I can add. Sir, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Japheth. UTEL is in the house. UTEL? Very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to ask you the same question when it comes to UTEL money and also the infrastructure question as well, please.
Good morning.
Morning.
Can you repeat the question for me, please?
Okay. You know what? I'm going to go all the way back first, since you're here now. When it comes to consumers experiencing mobile money transaction issues, the frustration is, how long am I going to have my issue resolved when I complain? Do you have a system in place? What kind of mechanisms do you have to resolve consumer disputes?
Okay. Currently, UTEL is not transacting in regard to mobile money. We are having quite a number of revamps within the company. So when we are ready, we'll be able to provide those services. So right now, I cannot answer to that.
You cannot answer to that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kakonge, I assure you this is not an inquisition, but I'd like to come back to you, sir. You mentioned names when you're doing the transaction, but sometimes when you're doing a cross-network transaction, the name may not be there. Is that a technical issue? Is that a regulatory one? Are you actively trying to resolve this? I assure you it's not an inquisition, sir.
Okay. Rudende, I like to, first of all, I'm happy you said it's not an inquisition. This is a conversation.
Yes, sir.
I'm happy to say that when you're doing cross-border transactions, first of all, I'll start with the international remittance.
Yes.
The names appear when for the sender and the receiver.
Yes.
That is the problem that's gone away. And when you do cross-border transactions, well, I mean inter-operator transactions right now, you can see the name of the recipient and the sender. So it is in place. So I would invite you to actually test it and share your results.
You know what? You send me money.
Yeah.
And then we can test it right now.
Why don't you send me?
Eh?
Why don't you send me money?
Bamanja. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
I'd like to recognize the presence of Dorothy Semanda. She is the CEO of American Tower. Dorothy, very good morning to you. How are you? And I feel like we should be asking you a question as well. When it comes to investment in electricity, especially for telecoms, it's very important. I'd like you to add to that topic.
Thank you and good morning to everybody. Thank you for being here, and to UCC, thank you for convening this this event. We have stated many times that connectivity ends where the grid lines end. And when I listen to UEDCL, I think what they're talking about is maintaining the existing electricity infrastructure. But we forget that our country has several thousand villages and districts that remain off the grid. Now, companies like MTN, Airtel, and American Tower and others have been investing in extending telecommunication services across Uganda over the last 20 years. And whereas right now we talk about 80% coverage, 90% coverage of telecom services across the country, I can tell you the coverage for electricity across the country pales in comparison to grid infrastructure and telecom. So there's a disproportionate coverage when it comes to telecom and grid extensions. What does that mean? It means that powering the tower is relying on non-traditional sources like the diesel generator. And that means that the provision of this service becomes very expensive. Now, a while ago, a liter of diesel was at 3,600.
A long while ago.
A long while ago. When Putin attacked Ukraine, it went to 6,300 in the same year. As we speak, a liter of diesel is going to be going for 6,000, probably go to 7,000 at some point.
Knock on wood.
Okay. Knowing all the problems that we're facing as a, as a region, as a country, we're landlocked, there's taxes on diesel, and yet to provide telecom services in a village in Amudat, you're going to be relying on a diesel generator.
Yes.
It is completely unsustainable. So the cost structure is going to go up overnight. But the usual customer does not expect the cost of 1 GB of data to go up overnight. That will not happen.
Quite frankly, they don't care.
And yet that cost must be carried by somebody. So it is imperative that we're all working together to think about connecting telecom to the grid. Because Uganda has clean grid. We have hydro energy. We have tons of solar tons of sun for solar energy. But we still rely on the diesel generator. So we implore government, every policy maker, every decision maker, to prioritize the extension of grid for telecom. Because in a situation like this, when costs are skyrocketing, no one expects. Actually, if you look at the costs of telecom services, 1 GB of data 5 years ago and what it is now, that cost has been dropping over time. And yet the cost of doing business when it comes, especially to power, is only going up. So there's a disproportionate aspect there that must be addressed, and discussions like this must come up with, a way forward to address this for the long term and to make it sustainable. Thank you.
You're welcome. Dorothy Semanda, American Tower Company, thank you so much. As you have rightly said, we do need to have a conversation about that. An honest and frank conversation might be a difficult one, but that's why forums like this exist, because the regulator is in the house, UEDCL is in the house, Ministry of Works is in the house, Ministry of ICT, OPM, they're all in the house. Thank you so much, ma'am. The Ministry of ICT, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm good.
All right. I want to talk about training programs, especially when it comes to digital inclusion and skilling. They're quite fragmented and underfunded across Uganda. How would you support establishing a single co-funded national digital skills program with the rest of the people in this room? And more importantly, who would lead it?
I would like to start with the last question. Who would lead it? If I'm going to manage a single program, I think I would want to lead it. Going to creating one, I think as the theme has the word partnerships, I would like to think that I would partner with every MDA and also the private sector to come up with an inclusive training program, but not only the private sector and the MDAs are around Uganda. I would like to also leverage the fact that I'm part of government and I have Office of the Prime Minister, I have Foreign Affairs. These attract a lot of international exposure.
Yes.
And international exposure would help with best practices regionally, regionally, continental, and generally internationally. Yes. So how the method of creating that single training program would depend on the partnerships and how I leverage them to create it.
Okay.
Yes.
So what is stopping you right now? Is there a roadblock? Is there a bottleneck somewhere? The people in the room.
Nothing is stopping me.
The Bible says, ask and you will receive.
That's true. Nothing is stopping me. And I would like to invite, in my capacity, I would like to invite those willing to partner with us in creating a single training program that is inclusive and effective to come on board, and we create that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Engineer Rebecca. Remember, sorry, no, it was an important message you were sending. But back in school, they used to ask a question, who are the noisemakers? Remember that question, eh? I would like you to point me to the cybersecurity head at Uganda Communications Commission.
The director,
Yes.
Engineer Christine Mujimba, is in the house.
Yes, thank you very much for coming, ma'am. I have a very important question for you. We've spoken about fraud, but as we become more and more connected digitally in Uganda, public trust is becoming increasingly more important. How are you strengthening collaboration around cybersecurity and also incident responses in that regard?
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. So yes, at UCC and as a sector,
Yes.
we recognize that cybersecurity is a shared responsibility. You are as safe as your neighbor.
Aha.
Yeah, so if you build a wall fence, but the people around you don't have that fence, they could be the ones who punch holes and also social engineer through your house help to get into your compound. So what we have been doing over the years is starting the conversation at the highest level, because previously cybersecurity had been left to the techies, the IT guy somewhere on their desk, and was not receiving the prominence that it needed to have in boardrooms. So that is no longer the issue. All the CEOs here, both in the telco, banking sector, and all appreciate this, and they have representation at the topest level in discussing cybersecurity. We have also gone ahead to ensure that no one is left behind.
Okay.
Partnerships, because ISPs are different levels. You have small SMEs, you have the big ones and all that. And how do we do this? Just last year, our board of directors at Uganda Communications Commission approved minimum guidelines for cybersecurity. And why they did this was to ensure that we have harmonized standards of how we tackle this issue. Because you may have a big network, but you have third-party vendors, you have someone who's giving you solutions, they connect, and even these days, and it's good that we have UEDCL here, the issue can actually come from there, through their systems, and it finds its way in the telcos. So these guidelines, which we have had since 2025, and been sensitizing the operators and onboarding, we hope that this year we'll begin to start looking and assessing how we are doing as a sector, and that will inform our further initiatives. Every year we have a forum similar to this, which just talks about cybersecurity.
Okay.
And enables that information exchange. And telcos, the CEOs always come up front and are able to say that, no, look here, this is not about competition. At the end of the day, our bottom line will be wiped out if there's a data breach or anything. So we are collaborating on that front. And in fact, we'll be having a cybersecurity conference coming up later that will bring together different players. We also have collaborations with the Data Protection Office, with the SAT under NITAU. And even as I was seated here, I received an email where a data breach had been suspected to happen in another sector outside telecom, had been suspected. The information was relayed to the Data Protection Office, to UGSAT, to NITAU, and so there's already information sharing that is happening, and we hope to continue to leverage it and improve it for timely response. Yeah, thank you.
We also look forward to that. One of the complaints people have had is that there's limited flow of information, especially between government and the operators. Are there binding obligations you have with these operators to report these breaches?
Yes, we have the SAT regulations 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, that require them to report, but they also now know that it's in their best interest, because we have shared platforms where they are able to hook in and see threat intelligence information, because investment in some of these tools can be quite expensive. So when you share them, so when it comes to cybersecurity, keeping information is a disadvantage. It's not you're disadvantaging yourself. So the more that you can share the information, the better. Of course, they themselves internally within their companies, within their groups, they have their own platforms, and I'm sure they are able to speak to that.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
For the benefit of me, who is the layman, what does effective communication sharing look like?
It looks like you're able, in terms of an incident, you should be able to identify the incident. So you need to know what is that incident, what is an incident and what is not. You should have escalation mechanisms to know when to escalate, whom to escalate to, identify it, report it, throughout the same, monitor it, take actions. If you have confirmed, investigate, take actions. If you need to isolate maybe a gadget that you found maybe compromising your network, isolate it from the rest, and then the whole loop of what has happened and what remedial action. It also involves where it touches on the day-to-day person, like a fraud, for you to communicate and say. That's where our PR people now begin to shine.
I was going to ask, you spoke about techies, but Omuntu Wawansi as well.
But we also don't want to threaten you so that you go back to the old ways and you run away from using the system. That's why you really have to be sure, because sometimes we throw these words so quickly. There's a hack, there's a what, when it's not really there. You have to be sure what you're talking about and what information that you give at a certain stage. So there are those requirements internally, when you should notify your customers, how you should notify, what has happened, when did it happen, what does it mean, how you can get help, and so on and so forth.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. Uganda Wildlife Authority in the house, and UEDCL spoke about wayleave permits, and indeed for the infrastructure of the digital sector as well. Maybe you'd give us a sense on the restrictions that you have putting up masts within the national parks, and maybe how we can quicken that process.
Thank you very much. One thing we need to appreciate is that all this infrastructure, talk about telecom towers, fiber cables, access roads, and all the associated installations. One, they have an element of land uptake. Two, they are being put in sensitive ecosystems that are very important in terms of supporting biodiversity conservation, research, climate resilience, mention it. So one of the things that we insist on as an institution, and by the way, this is for a good cause. We want, one, you must have a concession. What do I mean? If you are coming, for example, you want to put up a mast, you have to tell us the land take, how much land do you need, and then we give you a concession to use this land for a specific period of time. It can be 20 years, it can be 30 years. Basically, this is basically a discussion, and we agree on the land that you need to take. The second thing you need to do is to have the project briefs. You may wish to say EIAs, and these have to be approved by the National Environment Management Authority. And ourselves also have an EIA unit that largely works closely with NEMA to ensure that we don't have multiple layers of review of the EIA documents. So by the time NEMA gives it a nod, in most cases we've given an input and you're good to go. Now the third, where I think we get issues largely, is to do with the specific locations. Because there are locations where we may say, no, you cannot put here infrastructure. There are some sensitive ecosystems where we say no. For example, breeding zones of animals, mating grounds, so and others. And then there are those ones that we call tourism zones, for instance, those ones where we know that's where we have a number of tourism activities happening, and as such, we wouldn't want to give them away for these installations.
Okay.
Apart from that, we've been welcoming investors, but I know sometimes there are discussions about concessions, because as we give you land, certainly there is a give and take, and this sometimes takes lots of discussions. And my experience is that some of the investors who want to put up these infrastructures, in most cases, by the time they come to the institution, probably they have had discussions with some other higher offices out there. And then when they come to you, they're like, you know, we've had these discussions, so let us do our thing. And in most cases, we say, wait a second, it doesn't work like that. That's why government created this entity. Much as we've held discussions with ABCD, you also have to have a discussion with us here. And when someone comes and you say, look, there is ABCD here at our level for you to do, someone say, wait a second, I need to first go back where I held the prior discussions.
Okay.
And in so doing, time is going. And then we are seen as an entity that either is causing delays or frustrating some of these plans that are being laid in place. The most important thing is early engagement and also early assessment of sites. If this is done, I can assure you, you will see us working very closely. I know, for example, recently we have allowed a certain provider to put up telecom masts in the parks, because this, I mean, we need to have internet, we need connectivity. It's very good one for our ranger deployments, very good.
Yeah.
It's also important for our own systems. We have financial systems
Yes.
that run on digital infrastructure. They're also important for our monitoring systems. They're also important for coordination of rescue operations. So we need them, but also we need to ensure that they do not adversely affect what we are doing in terms of conserving biodiversity. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hanji. Maybe I could ask, why does Uganda Wildlife Authority charge market rate for sites? Wouldn't it make sense for these sites that support our tourism to be charged nominal rates for ground rent?
Oh, yes, we charge nominal rates because you are putting up infrastructure. We are taking this land. You are going to be with it for quite some good time. But also, you need to appreciate how WA operates. WA operates largely and basically on its own collections from the gates and some of these concessions. So if you want us to allow you to come and operate, you are taking away land. This land would be using it probably, would probably demarcating it as a tourism site. And then we get revenue. Or would be giving it to someone to set up for a hostel facility, lodge, and you get revenue from them, and we are taking it, and you don't want to contribute towards conservation. You are being unfair.
I hear you, sir.
Draw something in our coffers so that we do conservation.
Each one, reach one, help one. Okay, thank you very much, sir. I had to address that because that was the animal in the room. Pun not regretted. Thank you very much, sir. If I could ask, though, Madame Dorothy Seman that spoke about the cost of running these masts in hard-to-reach areas. And it's a popular myth, but I don't know. Maybe you can advise, Mr. Hanji. I don't know if it's true. There are no generators in national parks because they scare the animals. Is this true?
maybe I didn't talk about this, by the way. They run generators.
Okay,
but,
inside the parks?
Yeah, but what we do, we ensure that we have, like I said, we have a monitoring unit.
Yes.
And one of the things that we do is to ensure that these generators, they do not produce sound that is going to irritate the animals and cause stress to them. So we normally say they are silencer generators. But the sound is so minimal.
Okay.
Because look, we may want to conserve, but also we must also develop as a country.
Yes.
So we must strike a balance. That's why you see we have oil and gas activities in the parks. They are entirely operating in generators, but we ensure that they do not cause stress to the animals.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hanji. I'd like to go back to the Ministry of Local Government. When it comes to permits and the multiple permits that have to be issued, Ministry of Local Government, Ministry of Works, Uganda Wildlife Authority, NEMA has to give you a permit as well. What do you think you can do to quicken that process? Even road construction plans, Ministry of Works is in the house, even that. Is there a way you can give us a sense of what needs to be done to quicken that process?
Thank you, moderator. One, as I talked before, that we need the harmonization. We need a harmonized framework among the different stakeholders. And it's good that the theme of today is on partnerships. I think the way to go is to have that one. We have a harmonized framework on permitting among the key stakeholders, which clearly comes up with clear roles and responsibilities, approval timelines, and all that.
Okay.
But we need to harness the advantage of technology now. What we can do now is to quickly have a one-stop center, a digital framework where operators can log in, where consumers can log in, and we allow sharing. This digital framework will ease the times, the delays, and the duplication. So as the Ministry of Local Government and our colleagues in KCCA, as the ED of UCC said, we have identified the problem. Yes, it came in, we wanted to solve a problem of connectivity, but another problem has been created. And we know where we are now. So, and we know where we should go. So now, how do we go there? Please, let us have a harmonized framework. The ED talked about the policy. I think we have identified the problem. The policy should go on, and you have a harmonized framework. We harness the digital technology, and as the SIM says, we have intergovernmental and private sector coordination. So I think that one, with that one, can easily solve these delays, challenges, and duplication that is happening currently. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. The government has a concrete commitment, a concrete plan for that. You've heard of the 10-fold strategy, building the economy of Uganda towards $500 billion US. But none of that counts if we don't have the right digital infrastructure in place, if we don't have the right connectivity in place, if we don't foster innovation, because a lot of that money is going to come from innovation. If I could get a sense from the operators, and I'll start with MTN Uganda, Madame Sylvia, how are you strengthening, what are you doing? From your perspective, what do you see the telecom sector making as a contribution towards that 10-fold strategy?
Great question. We actually had a conversation with the Ramadan sometime last year. Because the reality is for the government to be able to do this with your great word, they must have partnerships. And I think every sector has a role to play. And definitely for the ambition that the government wants to realize, they can't be able to do that if they're not driving, first of all, digitization.
Yes.
Because digitization means that you're driving your agenda at cheaper costs. It also means that you're able to scale a lot more effectively, but also the role that the mobile money can be able to play in helping the government, especially with regards to ensuring that funds get faster to customers. If you think about, for example, the disbursement of PDM funds, we have been lobbying as an industry to be a lot more included in conversations with government, especially because not only do we ensure that the funds reach the last mile recipient fastest, but also we do it affordably, and we are also able to provide the government with a record trail that is really auditable in terms of how the funds are moving. And it's also very easy then to be able to track what are the funds being used for by the beneficiaries at the end mile. The other thing, of course, is that also when you look even at the various sectors that have been called out, whether it is oil and gas or manufacturing, a lot of the achievements and the ambitions that they have to do are driven on the backbone of digital infrastructure, which we are a critical enabler. What Dorothy, the CEO of ATC, also spoke about, conversations around coverage, conversations around ensuring the grid reaches the last mile are also a critical enabler to the work that we do. And we know that the more we get a lot more of Ugandans participating in the digital economy, then it means a lot more businesses, a lot more individuals, a lot more young people are having access to services that allow them to be able to create an economic outcome for themselves, and that therefore champions the agenda. So we see ourselves as an industry as an enabler across all the different platforms. When you look at the 10X strategy, whether we are playing from a digital infrastructure perspective or we are playing from a financial inclusion perspective, I would see ourselves as one of the rails upon which the plan sits that helps the government to be able to move. And I think the challenge that we have thrown to our regulator, to our ministry, is that the more they enable us, the more we enable the government. The more we have a lot more people playing in the digital economy space, the more we have taxpayers, the more we create ease of government collections, government disbursements. And we all know that when you have an economy where the velocity of cash is fast, it also means that the economy is also moving fast. So we are very clear on the role that we want to play, and we are available to be challenged and supported to help the government deliver the 10X agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Sylvia. You said taxes, and I could hear URA's ear perking up. But Mr. Sumendra, if I could ask, in your perspective, what is the sector's biggest contribution to this strategy in the next few years?
Yeah. Thank you. In fact, Sylvia has covered many parts of what I was also thinking. So what I would like to tell you from an industry perspective and what we're currently in from a current situation perspective, if you see, actually telcos are the backbone of any country's infrastructure. It's like if we can rate or if we can evaluate, telco operators are doing worldwide, not just in Uganda, everywhere. It is like regarded as the main backbone of digital and financial infrastructure.
It's true.
And that's very, very important. So that's why whatever telco does, and it directly impacts the lives of the customers, and hence it also impacts the economy of the country. If I would like to divide into three parts, and there are different phases when telco actually they transit. The first one is access. While if we see Uganda in currently, I think the access part is more or less resolved. Yes, there are some parts of the country where the customers need access. But the second and the third part, to me, is the most important part, is content and solutions. I think we are getting there. Still, if you compare like the developed countries or developing countries versus us, we are still on content side, we are behind.
Yes, that's true.
And that is where I think we have a great role to play, and it will have a real impact, not just in customer, even for the country and for the economy. And the third to me is the most important, which is solutions. Because right now, when you are giving access and you don't give solutions, actually you are not helping the business. And if you see, the country is basically consists of micro SMEs, SOHOs, and SMEs.
Yes.
If you compare only those 4, 5, or 6 big industry, it will not help the country. So that's why the micro SME and SMEs are very, very important, where I think telco will play a big role by providing solutions to them. And that's where we are trying our level best. We are bringing new technology. Also, we are bringing new products like NAS, IoT, all those things.
Yes.
Which should help this small business so that they grow. When they grow, like Sylvia mentioned, they get more revenue, they give more taxes, and the economy grows. So I think that's where we can create a lot of impact. We are in that transformational stage, I would say.
To enable the lifeblood of the economy, so to speak. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
If I may, as a total aside here, the ED of UCC has been called away to certain matters, but before he goes, we'd like to have a group photo. So I'll ask Honorable Nyombi Tembo to come to the dais alongside representatives from all ministries, departments, and agencies, the MNOs, representatives as well, and ISP heads. If you could make your way to the dais, please. We have a quick group photo, and the discussion will continue. DJ track number 81. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. as we bid farewell to the Executive Director of Uganda Communications Commission, we will take our seats and continue the conversation. You know, such photos are very important. They call it accountability. Seen people here rushing into the photo, and I understood. But we're still talking about how the telecom sector can support the government's growth strategy, the tenfold growth strategy. And I'd like to bring in Mr. Kakar at this point. Mr. Kakar is the CEO at Leica Mobile. How do you feel the sector can contribute to the government strategy, the tenfold strategy to build our economy towards $500 billion?
Thank you. The strategy put forward for economic growth to 500 billion is not possible without the GDP growth in micro SME, as Som has mentioned. Madam has spoken about the tax inclusion. We have spoken about the digital inclusivity.
Yes.
Another area where we at industry veterans feel this is one instrumental piece is the education, where telco will be catalyst in evolving the lower pyramid of the country and make them unable to get into the entrepreneurship and micro SME. We at Leica are focused in that particular space, wherein as a telco, we should be striving to give them the affordable connectivity and give them the content, enable them to get engaged and remain connected. That is how we feel this, as a telco sector, we will be part of this contribution.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kakar. One thing that, at least for me as a consumer, what I think about quite a bit is the issues of home connectivity. Rock Telecom. I'm going to ask a roving microphone to get towards Rock Telecom. Please raise your hand. How are you doing this morning? Very well. Could I please get a microphone towards Rock Telecom, please? One of the issues we have is many consumers are asking more and more questions around flexibility, especially when it comes to their home internet solutions and the usages. You have a family that has multiple devices, multiple users. They move between home, school, and work. From a commercial perspective, is that flexible model more feasible to you?
Yes.
Because if it's at home, I only use it at home. What about the 9 hours I'm not at home? Is there a way I can link a device and run with it?
You definitely need a mobile solution for that. And we're innovating together with the MNOs to provide solutions in that direction that will help you work while you're on the mobile, while you're mobile to your office, and while at home. But mostly for us in the ISP or fixed internet, we want to provide service for you at home. You watch your Netflix. It's a more reliable service. Of course, the fiber connection is more reliable for you to watch Netflix. I heard you're interested in the Champions League. That kind of streaming requires fast fiber connection at home. The mobile is a different proposition. And like I've said, we're working with the MNOs to couple the two and give you one service, one bill.
Okay. Thank you very much. Liquid Telecom is in the house as well. I'm going to get a microphone towards them. I want to get a sense of how they feel about that shared commercial model. Shared access of our home internet plans to mobile devices. Think of it as an on-the-go solution.
Of course, yeah. Thank you so much. That's a very intriguing suggestion. I think that these days connectivity is becoming a necessity, both from entertainment, as my colleague mentioned, but even from a remote working perspective. And we've also partnered very heavily with mobile operators to provide solutions in this direction, where you can share your connectivity both between a fixed and a mobile package. And I think it goes back to your initial point about generally infrastructure sharing and the frameworks that we're enabling, where we can leverage off each other's networks to provide solutions.
Mm-hmm. I mean, with all the questions that have been asked today, how do you translate these conversations into practical implementation?
Yeah, so I think that it's very important that we take an assessment of where we are in the current situation. And I believe that there are frameworks being developed which will guide us on how we can move forward, cooperating to use each other's networks and provide solutions that benefit the customer.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Savannah Fiber. Savannah Fiber is in the house. Simba Fiber is in the house. Could we hear from you guys as well? Don't be shy. When will you have people like this in the same room at the same time? People go quiet in the WhatsApp group. Now it's face to face. Simba Fiber is right here at the front. Could we get a microphone to Simba Fiber, please? I'm asking about home solutions and the feasibility of translating a package into on the go. So when people are not at home, they can still use your service.
Good morning, everyone. Ours is directly FTTH, fiber to the home only. When the people are not there in the home, they cannot use it because it's not related to telecommunication services. Whenever they are in the home, they can use it.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So all the home providers don't have an app that they can use, maybe to link your service?
No, it's not possible.
Piggyback off these infrastructure?
Telecom is not connected. It's not
None
connected.
of the above?
Just only up to the home.
Strictly at home?
Strictly at home.
Yes. Please jump in, Mr. Som.
Okay, I think maybe I did not understand the question.
Yes.
What I felt the question is whether you can use the same data what you are getting in homes.
Yes.
In mobile.
Yes.
Technically,
as an on-the-go solution.
Technically it is no.
Yes.
Firstly, I would like to tell you the data what we give, particularly all the operators and the ISPs for homes, it is much cheaper. And for mobile, there is a separate investment what we were doing. Basically, the telcos, they are doing separate investment in terms of spectrum, in terms of tower, in terms of radio, everything, because that's a radio technology.
Yes.
So if we integrate that with the same price, it's not viable. It is not financially viable. It doesn't make business case. But yes, there can be a possibility of selling the product as a bundle. So let's say, for example, you are a home, let's say you are a family of 4 family members.
Yes.
And then you can have a 1 fiber connection and 2 mobile connections or 3 mobile connections in that package.
Yes.
That can be looked at. But with the same plan, basically, if the question is data can be shared, I don't think data can be shared from the same plan because it is at a very, very cheaper rate because the cost of data in fiber is much cheaper than the cost in radio.
Okay.
That is point number 1.
So what you're telling me is that shared access of home internet plans across mobile devices to the whole family right now is not economically feasible or possible, technically.
Yes.
But there could be an alternative with the mobile packages from the MNOs.
Yes. Which will be bundled along with the homes plan.
As an add-on,
yes,
so to speak.
It can be add-on.
Not
it can
unlike,
be like sold like a family plan.
Not unlike when you pay for purpose of this example, DSTV and you have Showmax.
So for example, in homes, customer is getting unlimited internet.
Yes.
So that unlimited internet cannot be shared with the mobile. Because for mobile, it is a different plan, it's a different spectrum, it's a different technology. And the homes are with fiber, it is a different
Okay. I like that. I like that we have ideas coming up in this discussion from the operators.
But while saying so,
yes.
I think both the operators, we have data sharing plan even in mobile. So if there is a family member, and like for example in our case we have Tugabane, where a family member, the head of the family, if he's buying a data pack, that person can share the data with the family members.
Tugabane, but that's off your mobile device.
Yes. Okay. But that is mobile to mobile.
Mobile
not,
to mobile,
not
home solution to mobile. Yes. Okay, understood. From the operator side, if I can stay with you, Mr. Sumendra, with all the ideas that are coming up here today, how do you translate those conversations into practical implementations, into timelines, into measurable outcomes to feed into that 10 times growth, the 10x growth?
No, I think firstly, we have to agree on a lot of things. As a full, I think all the members who are present in this hall, they have to agree. And finally, I would request UCC and all other authorities to really, I think, create a framework which can help all the operators and the ISPs and all other telco providers, so that it should be firstly it should be flexible, and more importantly it should be easy. I think that is what as a team we need to really break through. And once that is done, I think as an industry we are aligned, and we are aligned to support this cause. And we know that when it impacts, like I just mentioned in my previous remarks, if it impacts the customers, it will impact all of us positively.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'd like to bring in Madame Maggie Muchibi-Lutuama. She is the Chief Operations Officer at UTEL. You spoke about revamps that are happening at UTEL, and quite frankly, we're excited. I know quite a number in this group had mango lines, and we can't wait to reactivate them. But from your perspective, where do you see the telecom sector making the biggest contribution in the next few years to the ambitious economic transformation goals that government has?
Okay. Thank you so much for that. The mango lines, UTL is not in this country anymore. The company, yes.
So 071 is gone.
It is there,
it
but
is
the
there.
assets were bought by the government, and we have new shareholders.
Okay.
And currently, that's why we're having a revamp.
Okay.
Government owns certain shares, and we also have an investor owning other shares. But before I answer your question, there's something that has been lingering on in my head. We've had quite a number of conversations with the different providers. I'm not so sure if we've spoken about infrastructure sharing and the tariffs related to that.
It was a conversation that we started with.
Did we conclude in terms of the tariffs? I know that quite a number of ISPs in this audience today, we had quite a series of conversations in regard to infrastructure sharing. You cannot be talking about that and you have not grounded the rates at which you're going to charge each other. Have we spoken about it? Because you're pushing or you're requesting the operators to partner infrastructure. Then at what rates are we looking at? That's a conversation. I know it's sensitive if you already have, you've invested a lot in infrastructure.
So you say that, would you say that is the biggest bottleneck towards infrastructure sharing, deeper infrastructure
I would
sharing?
imagine so. Why would I build an infrastructure alongside whoever has one? What would one of the reasons be?
Well, to ease of access for you, also to control your data flow as well. That's why we see so many poles in the same place from the same service provider.
Yes. I think that's a conversation probably the regulator needs to bring into this house. It's all over in different platforms where I sit. And since we are all here, it would be a very good conversation to sit in. But other than that, beyond that, we had a conversation, yes, with the different service providers, and we have not concluded on that. It would be a good opportunity for us to have a candid conversation about it in here.
Don't worry, the board chair of the Uganda Communications Commission is in the house. She has heard that. She's listening. And not just UCC. When you spoke about infrastructure, Ministry of Local Government is in the house. Ministry of Works is in the house. KCCA, NEMA, Uganda Wildlife Authority, because they all feed into the infrastructure development that you are speaking about, do they not?
Absolutely. But more to that, the one I'm talking of is the infrastructure that the different service providers have laid. MTN has laid, Airtel has laid, UTL has laid, Rock Telecom has laid. There have been quite a number of conversations that are not conclusive. Right now, government has given us a deadline to ensure that probably all the poles are pulled down and we get onto probably one
service conduit, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So you cannot be driving that narrative without agreeing on the how much.
I feel like there's a question you want to ask.
I am already asking.
You ask me the question, they will hear. Don't pass through the corners.
I am not passing through the
Is it
corners.
Ministry of Finance?
Not.
Is it OPM?
No. The regulator needs to come out clear.
Ministry of
I know
ICT?
it's a sensitive conversation for my friends in MTN and Airtel who already have invested a lot in infrastructure. How about the other players? It's something that we probably need to discuss. I know that there are quite a number of conversations with the other service providers who agreed on a rate.
Yes.
You cannot be pushing the other narrative without agreeing on what the rate is.
And that's why we're saying this is a shared national challenge.
Absolutely.
There's nothing like a ceremonial gathering. Is this a PR exercise? No, it's not. Ask the question. Matthew 7:7 says, ask and you will receive. If we're going to have a candid, practical conversation.
The candid conversation or
Yes.
question is, there was a rate that was agreed on in one of the meetings. The association is, can someone remind me what the association is?
That Maggie should have been here from the start.
What's the name of the association? Internet what? Please. Absolutely. Yes, Andrew, what's the name of the association?
Thank you, Maggie. The name of the association is PAL.
Absolutely.
Internet Service Providers Association. But if you may permit me, we did discuss an offer reference rate, what you're discussing too. In fairness, UCC did come out with guidelines, but, and you're right, the guidelines conveniently
Yeah,
omitted that rate.
absolutely.
And hear me out, because we've continued to engage with them and they've been very open with us. We pointed out alongside other players that the guidelines are out, but under what framework do we engage? They told us, first of all, the guideline was effective 1st January 2026, and it came out, I think, in March, without any rates. However, we've been advised that there's going to be a stakeholder, multi-stakeholder engagement to refine these guidelines. We are still waiting. My prayer is that it does not also bear the characteristics of the second coming.
Mr. Chair, if I could ask, you're still waiting for whom?
I'm still waiting for our regulator to convene the stakeholder stroke multi-stakeholder engagement to refine this framework, and we hope that it will have those rates. But in the meantime, until that is done, this position does not vacate the bilateral conversations that are still obtaining. Is that the right way to go? Let's have a conversation. I have my answer as an interested party, but let's have that conversation. Thank you very much.
So the question should be, is infrastructure sharing moving fast enough? If I distill it down to one sentence. I'm trying to understand. There's a question that you've asked. It's multifaceted. As part A, B, C, graph, paper.
After Andrew's clarity, you still didn't understand?
No, I'm just asking. It was
For
you.
me, the question is very clear.
Hmm.
All of us are encouraged to share infrastructure.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you very much. But without having a rate within the framework, you cannot promote that, right? And that has been the challenge across the industry. There were quite a number of conversations because, like he has said, when the framework was released, the rates were omitted. We understand that probably some providers needed to do further consultations, but since we are all here and it's a partnership conversation, it would be good to be able to lock that in. So maybe Christine can speak to that.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Yes, it is true that UCC has been engaging with the operators to refine the framework. And I'm going to call in our technical team who are looking at the issue of the rates and others, Baga and Kite, to come in just to pick up that conversation.
Okay. Engineer Rebecca.
So, thank you very much, Christine. And there's been a lot of work in progress in that regard. And like I mentioned earlier, the framework was just the starting point. Now, the rates cannot be included in a framework document because the framework becomes like a national standard. The rates and all those other implementation details have to be in what we are now working on as a transition roadmap, because that rate is subject to so many moving parts, including changes in the operational environment and the business environment. Now, casting a rate in a framework would be locking ourselves and the industry down. And that's why in my earlier submission, I indicated that first there is a framework which provides the technical foundation of how the infrastructure is going to be rolled out, shared, and the options and the dimensioning and all those details. Now, after the framework has been adopted, we are now working on an implementation roadmap. That roadmap is the one that will have those details, including the rates, including the operational and process details, because the fact that this is a multi-agency environment, we also have to come up with prescriptions of where does the process start and end, what approvals precede which ones, and those other details. Now, those meticulous details cannot be in a framework because you want it to have a longer applicable shelf life. However, the stakeholder consultation we are planning is now to introduce and share proposals on the implementation roadmap, which is going to be two-tiered. One, to correct the problem where it's already existing. And two, to prevent that problem from reoccurring. Again, because of the service disruption fears, and we are acting after the fact. We have to be cognizant of all the stakeholders because, like I mentioned earlier, the different operators or networks have different footprints, extents of footprints. The stakes are different for the different clients, whether it's enterprise or fiber to home. And all those factors have to be put into consideration before we concretize the implementation roadmap. And yes, the stakeholder engagement is coming up, and that engagement will now take a step back from just having a framework to the actual implementation details. I hope that addresses some of the gaps that have been recognized in the framework, but still all the feedback is still being collected. Thank you.
Okay.
If I could add.
Please, Mr. Mbaga.
Regarding the costing, periodically the Commission carries out costing studies for infrastructure services and other sectors. We did one for the telecom infrastructure services, and it was read in October, and we did communicate to all the operators. Now, for some of these, there's what we call reference rates, where we guide on what the rates can be. Depending on those rates, the expectation would be that the providers can look at the details, what assumptions we took, different, because there are so many assumptions, tweak them here and there, and then move forward. Specifically, we provided rates for ducts and dark fiber on top of other communication services. So it's our expectation that as we move forward, these are picked up and either tweaked, discussed, and then at least we know we have a starting point going forward. And this is a very recent study, October 2025. So we'd expect the operators, and they were involved in this discussion because it was consultative. So we'd expect if there's any impediment, these are things we'd be looking at going forward.
Okay.
It's not cast in stone, but it's a guiding document that can help us move forward. Thank you.
Okay. If I could just ask, October 2025 is almost 9 months ago. What is the gestation period of this study?
So usually we do, you know, you cannot do a study every year.
True.
We do these studies between 3 and 5 years.
Okay.
Between 3 and, that's the internationally accepted standard. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, back to you, Maggie.
Okay. Thank you so much for the submission. I know probably it's not a question that was expected in this forum, but I thought that since all the respective stakeholders are here, it would be good for us to be able to dive into it.
Indeed.
And one of the reasons why I brought it up is, one, we are being urged to ensure that we move our infrastructure into probably one operator, or in regard to planning, you need to be able to partner with another operator who has infrastructure to be able to provide services. So it's a sensitive conversation. Where we are as a business at UTEL, we are at a planning stage, trying to develop our strategic plan. If the rates are prohibitive, then you'll be able to go back to the drawing board and say, do we really have to share the infrastructure, or we have to build our own? That is why it's a very critical conversation that needs to be closed parallel. While we are having all these reforms and conversations, it is critical to understand. And that is why if you look at the infrastructure that you're seeing out there, ask yourself one thing: why is everyone putting up a pole? Yet there's another infrastructure there. If the rate is kind of agreed to, we can be able to share the infrastructure freely, knowing that we're at a level ground and we can be able to compete on service. So that is why for me it was critical. We are in the planning stage, trying to be able to bounce back as a business. And one of the conversations in the room was, do we really share the infrastructure? If we're to share, what are the strategic, decisions that the business needs to make in that direction?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. But as you bounce back, where do you see yourselves making the biggest contribution to this ambitious government strategy?
In connectivity, just like my other colleagues have mentioned, because if you look at the National Development Plan 4, it clearly indicates that ICT is going to be an enabler. And we're playing quite strong in that space. We are aware that for us to be able to multiply ourselves, you cannot be able to have infrastructure in the shortest time possible wherever you are. You can be able to leverage on the other networks and be able to reach out to as many Ugandans as possible in terms of individual, in terms of SMEs, because SME is a bigger conversation in there. So when we have that, in terms of if I can be able to build a network on one end, then I can be able to share with Airtel and MTN and the other way I don't have to build. That is something that we're actually looking at, so that we don't have to have limited infrastructure, we can be able to multiply ourselves as an industry, and we can be able to meet the regulators' 90% coverage. Yeah.
All right. Maggie Muchibi-Luchwama is the Chief Operations Officer at UTEL. Thank you very much, ma'am. You spoke about SMEs. The Federation of Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises Uganda is in the building. Well done. Yes, thank you for coming. I'd like to recognize the presence of a couple of ISPs as well for home solutions. C Squared is in the house. Gelat Telecom is in the house. Internet Solutions Uganda is in the house. Leica Mobile is in the house. Tokyo Mobile is in the house. Cheetahnet Solutions in the house. Sedanet is in the house. Rock Telecom, Savannah Fiber, Simba Fiber, Sprint Internet Limited is in the house, as well as the Global Consumer Center. These are consumer advocacy groups. And they asked a very interesting question. I'd like to read it verbatim. Sorry, I've been handed so many papers. Bear with me a second. I'm reading it verbatim, don't shoot the messenger. Why don't ISPs refund or credit customers for days when paid fiber service is down? And how can the industry fix this? Do I leave that to the chair of ISPA Uganda? But would love to hear from all the ISPs in the house. Rock Telecom, Savannah, Simba, Sedanet. I'll ask the question again. Why don't ISPs refund or credit customers for days when paid fiber service is down? And how can the industry fix this? Oh, don't everybody speak at once. I'm going to fling it directly to the chair, ISPA Uganda. Sorry. Yes. Yes. Yes.
But again, members of the association are in the room. And I think they can answer. But just before they do,
yes,
when we borrow from the other sectors, when your water disappears for 2 days, you know what my follow-on question is? When UEDCL, with all due respect, madam, does their thing, do they ask for your mobile money number so they can send you your money back? And I'm just using a common sense approach.
Okay.
Because I'm also a provider. Let me start with my friend at Gelat Telecom to answer what he usually does or doesn't do.
Thank you so much. Enoch from Gelat. I had hoped Andrew would skip, but nonetheless.
Heavy is the head, sir. Heavy is the head.
It's a mixed answer, and I'll tell you why. Some of these solutions that we provide when we are giving home solutions, and I think other service providers may also speak into it. The SLAs that we have for such service, when you pay me 80,000, 60,000, and you expect the world, it's hard to give you the world at that cost. And that's why those SLAs will always tell you probably best effort sometimes. Best effort probably because we are sharing the infrastructure. There is someone else also who has let us down. UEDCL, for instance. So you have all these complementary facets that fit into that. And that's why when you want to have a very good uptime or refund or SLA that is high up there, you pay a little extra and we give it to you. So as a home user, I'm not saying we don't care about you. We do care about you.
Nobody's saying you don't.
But we are simply saying to fit into UCC's objective of affordability,
yes,
we try to tailor a solution for you that fits in that budget or that pocket that you have. And we say kindly appreciate. In some instances, for instance, I'll give a very good example. In some instances, we can't give that. Just like when we had no service for 4 days, okay? When you went to elections, some of you pay a full amount of 100,000. I wonder whether you were refunded. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Some ISPs, some of us may have chosen and said, let's be good, and given it back to you. But for some, there is no obligation.
This is true.
So that's why I say it's a facet. So I hope I've given a small indicative answer.
Point of clarification, sir. Enoch, let me stay with you for a second. I want to ask a question. I've been accused of using food analogies, but I feel like food analogies bring across the point quite well. If you went to a restaurant and they brought you your food, you ordered something off the menu, they brought you your food and it had too much salt or too little salt, would it make sense for you to complain to the waiter or to the chef? In this case, I want you to answer, are you the chef or the waiter? Because we know UEDCL is simply remember UEDCL was simply the waiter. Take it up with generation or transmission. To give us a sense of that, for the consumer advocacy groups in the building, are you the chef or the waiter?
This is why I say it's a facet of both.
Please.
So you at a different time you will choose what to be. So just like I said, waiter, chef, am I the service provider? Am I the infrastructure provider? Because remember, the infrastructure provider is taking me there.
Mm-hmm.
If there is something wrong on the infrastructure perspective for some days, just actually, where am I going very far? I think the swearing in was on 12th.
Yes, last week.
From 22nd
of April.
Yes,
of
up
April.
until maybe 15th, we were not allowed to do some works in the CBD because of the election. So would you say you'd blame me for a delayed installation or a delayed service call? So it really depends. I don't want to pin it. As I said, we are here for partnerships. True. So maybe some of these things will be answered. But like as Maggie said, this thing is a very heavy elephant. But let's hope we can get an answer to everything as we progress by the third CEO Forum.
Inshallah. Inshallah. The UCC is in the building, by the way, they're taking notes. Sambaga Tuzinde, Engineer Rebecca, I see them all. MacGyver, Mr. Ibrahim Bossa, we're in the building, they're listening. But, Enoch, at the end of the day, for the consumer, they require a focal point for their grief. Sadly, you are the guys in the firing line, as is UEDCL, or formerly UMEM. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, everyone. I'm called Doreen, representing Sprint Internet Limited,
Yes.
Uganda. So it's not bragging, but I'm just saying some of the things that we do at Sprint.
Let me tell you something. He who knows the tune should blow the trumpet. There's no such thing as bragging. Please.
Okay. But I'll also explain to you why. At Sprint, most of the times we actually refund the client. If you've been off particular days, maybe if we had, maybe if it was a fiber cut, a genuine fiber cut, we will give you some of those days back. Yeah. And if we have signed with you an SLA of 99, maybe 0.7%, if we go down on that as an enterprise for you, we know it's affecting you, we will usually give you some compensation. For example, at the beginning of the year, during the elections, when guys had a total blackout, some of our clients made noise and we had to give them compensation. So that is one of the things. That's one of the things that we do. But what I would like to tell you, Rudende, is that it comes down to you as a client. There are clients who will get compensated and there are clients who won't get compensated. I've worked for a couple of telecoms. And clients who get compensated are those guys who make noise. So if you want to be compensated, please call that help center. Call Airtel. Every day you will get compensated. Call MTN, you'll get compensated. That's number 2. And then the last thing, I think these compensations depends on how big the telco or the ISP is. Some of these ISPs or telcos are really, really big, and they have so many clientele, and they don't have the time to look at the, let me use the word nitty-gritties, yeah, of the different guys who are on the network. So you'll find that guys who just want a compensation of a day or two, a big company like Airtel or MTN will not be able to track those, yet some of the smaller ISPs will be in position to track that. So these other guys will get compensated, but then those other guys, because of being overlooked, because of the network being so huge, they may not be compensated. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much. Rock Telecom. But for Rock, I have a different question.
Go ahead.
There's this, we've spoken about the ambitious government plans to 10x economic transformation. And Rock, beyond being an ISP, you're also building some kind of cloud storage system, am I made to understand?
Rock Cloud, yes.
Rock Cloud, yes. Maybe you could give us a sense of how that plugs in to the transformation plans that the government has.
Well, Rock Cloud or cloud services, infrastructure services that store applications and data and storage rightly so. But we're going ahead to make it sovereign, have it in the country, have data protection rules that initer issues, have better latency because it's in Uganda here at a secure data center. So that's what we're trying to do, sovereign cloud, as opposed to other cloud services like AWS, Amazon, which is in Europe. You have no control. It's very far. You pay in USD. We can allow you to pay in UGX, and you have more control. Yeah. So I think that's part of also the government plan to have cloud services local in Uganda.
Okay. Thank you very much. So just to explain, this sovereign means that it is locally available.
Yes, not confuse it with a sovereignty bill. Yes, but yes, it's locally
just to be clear,
available, and you have control under the data protection rules of Uganda.
Okay. Seeing as we are in this room with everybody, who in this room can help you make your job more efficient to serve the Ugandan?
I think now the issue, as many people have said, is about power. Power, stable power, cost-effective power. To run a cloud system, it consumes a lot of power and it needs to be stable. So if the government through UEDCL, UETCL, NITA, and so on, would provide cheap, clean power for cloud services, this service would be more available for more users in the country.
I'm going to ask a question that's probably very ignorant. But Dorothy Semanda from ATC was speaking about the cost of running masts as well. And now he's speaking about the cost of running a data center.
Correct, yeah.
How viable is it to use alternative solutions like, say, for instance, solar energy?
It's about the cost economics.
Okay.
But in Uganda, we're blessed with the River Nile. So we know the power can be available. And this is also green power because it's hydro. So yes, solar is a good alternative, but we already have a very the best choice as hydro. So yes, for smaller sites, for example, for ATC, the tower companies or Tower Co of Africa, in remote areas, obviously solar is going to be a very good option for reliability. But for data centers, which are in a fixed place, in a fixed location, the existing grid should be able to provide this at a very affordable cost.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please put your hands together. Thank you very much. The anti-counterfeit network is in the building as well. Anti-counterfeit? Very good morning to you, sir. Is it still morning? Yes, it is. Barely. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
How are you doing this morning?
Doing fine.
For my for my own consumption. How does the anti-counterfeit network fit into the telecom sector? Before I ask you what I want to ask.
Thank you very much. Counterfeit devices play a very damaging effect in the ecosystem of the overall growth and expansion, because if you have a substandard device or a counterfeit device, there will be effects on your security, there will be effects on the gadget, the network that you'll be receiving, the reception will not be good, even the battery coverage and all those other things. So it's very important not to look at counterfeits or substandard devices as an enforcement area, but it's very important for it to be part and parcel of the infrastructure advancement, especially not only in the main infrastructure, but in the devices that are being used onto the platform. Okay. So yes, it's very important, and UCC is coming out strongly to make sure that the devices that are going to be used onto the infrastructure are genuine. So it's very important.
Okay. Sorry, you didn't introduce yourself, sir.
My name's William Malavu.
Yes.
Working with the Anti-Counterfeit Network, Africa.
Okay. Thank you, William, so much. Because you speak about counterfeit devices, but then I feel like there's a broader conversation there around, I mean, one of the biggest barriers to meaningful digital access is getting the device that you need, but it goes back to the cost of said device. And so it would have been great if we had Ministry of Finance in the building, or maybe Uganda Revenue Authority, to speak to how they can lower the cost of these entry-level smartphones, would it not?
For devices to be able to operate effectively on the system, they must be having a certain minimum standard. Okay. Of course, a minimum standard has to come with the cost of creating that device, if it's a modem or if it's a phone. So there must be a minimum standard for that device. And of course, that comes with a cost.
Yes.
But as to whether the different gadgets or devices, the different values that they can be able to attract, that is a market force that comes in with trade and business. And many MNOs have been bringing in devices that are affordable and at the same time are standard, genuine, but can be able to function and carry the message onto the network. But the challenge is that if anything is going to be brought in and it's lower than the minimum standard, though it's offering a very attractive price, it becomes counterproductive, especially for even we, the consumers. So it's important to pay attention to the minimum requirement that's being provided for the devices and match that price so that we can be able to benefit from the value that the overall network can provide. Anything lower than that brings in the risk of health and safety, as well as losing of money.
Okay. Thank you so much, William. He's from the Anti-Counterfeit Network. Thank you so much, sir. I want to ask a question before we wrap up, because our time is fast spent. And I feel like on this one, I'm going to just have to point at people and then they answer the question. Somebody from each table. I'll skip this table. I'll skip that table as well. I'll skip that table as well. But we'll start from that table right here next to the Airtel banner. What do you feel is one practical commitment or priority area that we can advance before the next CEO Forum? What does success look like the next time we gather? I'm going to start with this table here. Individually, you can decide who is going to speak. And I'll skip to the next table. You should be planning who is going to speak as well from that table.
Thank you so much. I'll keep it brief. I don't know how many people here remember Frank Consult and the work Dr. Frank Katsime did in this country. Those who may not, I don't have anyone around here. He taught us how to create folders, how to open a Word document and an Excel sheet. That was 23 years ago. I think one of the success things we can go home is have a conversation on a dinner table in a family setting about these ICTs. The smartphone. We can discuss as an all we want, but in terms of raising public awareness, we cannot leave this to the MNOs. In our families, in our churches, in our cell groups, we have 30 minutes where we can discuss these ICTs, the good, the bad, and the ugly in there. I think for me, if we walk out of this room and we've made that commitment, that in whichever space we are, that conversation should be had. Somebody cannot go to a ballot box and vote properly. We got over 233,000 invalid votes. That person cannot process a two-factor authentication. Thank you.
Leader. Thank you very much. David Birunji from Airtel. Please carry on.
Thank you very much. My name is Julie Nsuga. I'm the Managing Director for Baobab Uganda, the infrastructure platform that enables partnerships and the progress that UCC is pushing.
Thank you very much for coming.
Particularly cross-border connectivity, because we believe that Uganda as a landlocked country actually needs that support. And we are here to support and enable everybody that is looking to get into the country. One of the things that I believe is a success factor that we should live here with, and it's coming back to the regulator. We have been coming in through Kenya, and it's a really one-sided kind of connectivity into this landlocked opportunity of the Pearl of Africa. We've tried a lot, and I know that my partners, my customers, my colleagues in this room have tried to go through the other side of the country, which is the Tanzania side, and it is very expensive. We have engaged different ministries to support. We implore you as a regulator to engage with your partners in Tanzania and see how you can improve the pricing in that space, because everything that we try to bring in becomes expensive to the people that need it, and ultimately the consumer, because of the pricing in that space. But we need to have resilience into the country. I'll also tell you that we are building fiber on the western side of Africa. We're doing the east to west. I'm sure you've heard of that. We are very close into South Sudan. Very soon we'll cross over to the Congo, and we will give you opportunity to come from that side, but we still need Tanzania because it's very key for us. So please support us as the regulator to engage and find us a good price. We will deliver the service for the people and for the consumer. Thank you very much.
We're moving to the next table over there. We haven't heard from, the tables we haven't heard from. I'd like to hear from those tables over there.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Still morning?
Yes.
My name is Patrick Ndegwa. I'm the MD for Secom Uganda. I think this is a very interesting and interrogative session. I think I've really enjoyed it. I think for me, I was just going back to looking at the theme. I think success for us really builds on having the right partnerships across the entire sector. I think, as we had mentioned before, I think for each one of us, as an ISP or a telco operator, one of the largest costs that we have is infrastructure. And as you've heard from the previous contributors, it doesn't make any sense to build and add infrastructure to a location that already has one of your partners. So it goes back to the point that, I mean, the whole engagement being driven by the regulator, of course, and within the industry to drive the infrastructure sharing framework and also make it fair so that all of us can be able to use and reuse existing infrastructure through our partners, and at the same time make it commercially possible to be able to provide the service levels that are required to the end customer. Because again, that goes back to the objective for the government to reduce the cost to the end user. But it cannot work, it cannot come out unless we are all working to share infrastructure and share services in a way that is competitive. And as you've heard, there are so many costs that are related to delivering services to our customers. I mean, we talked about power, we talked about cooling for the data centers, for example, building the fiber, etc. So let's focus on building the right partnership framework for collaboration so that then overall we see a reduction in cost for the end customer.
Thank you so much, sir. There's a table over there that has Julia, so we haven't heard from that table. If we could ask anybody, nobody in particular, but the microphone will land there, whoever picks the microphone, they could speak on behalf of the table. Tell us what success looks like by the time we come for the third Telecom CEOs Forum. This table, you're walking past the table, is this table right here? That one, yes. Flip a coin.
Okay,
Go
my
ahead,
name
sir.
is Alan Chimende,
Yes, sir.
Regional Managing Director at DataNet.
Yes.
I think for me, the most important thing here is partnership. And I think from a DataNet point of view, we are already partnering with other operators to deliver service to the customer. But again, an introduction to core builds of infrastructure is possibly some low-hanging fruit. So for example, if you have resources to build, say, to Gulu, if I also have interest in going to Gulu, can we pool resources together? Say, for example, if you're building a 96 core or more of fiber, can we pool resources together and share this infrastructure? Because if we run 10 different pairs of fiber going to Gulu, it's not cost effective. And again, looking at the investment that we are all pouring into this infrastructure, it could go to somewhere else. So I think that's one of the key low-hanging fruits, issues of core builds. Talking about now some of these areas that we're trying to sanitize, where there's vast infrastructure. If you look at, for example, Chira Municipal, these are new areas that are being developed. Instead of us, all of us rushing there, dashing there to put infrastructure, say, for the fiber to the home, can we pool resources together and say, put concrete poles that can accommodate everybody? Can we really come up with a structure, to try to make this city a smart city kind of arrangement, where, for example, we say concrete poles. All the service providers, we have got the ISPAU that is bringing all the service providers together. How do we then invest in infrastructure that can accommodate everybody? Because today, I think some of those questions have been asked. If, say, on Acacia Avenue, you've got 7 poles, but how healthy are they? Who do you go with? Do I go with Rock? Do I go with Liquid? Do I go with MTN or Airtel?
Yes.
Look at the healthy of that pole. Tomorrow it's crash, it goes down. All the services are down. Then we start talking about issues of refunds, among other things. So core building in new areas that everybody is rushing to, I think it's a way to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Let's keep, okay.
Thanks, thank you. My name is Julius. I represent GVA. Just for my respond to my colleague, you might not be aware. We have signed a number of NDAs with a number of companies, a number of ISPs here. We've decided to do it based on an individual basis, company by company basis. We're coming up with the technical specifications, which we will be gladly share with the regulator. And the question of commercial rates, indeed, is correct, but I don't think the regulator can impose a figure. I think we need to do this on an individual basis, as we are doing. We are talking already to Nainchi, we're talking to Simba Fiber, we talked to Rock, we're talking to even Savannah, and we've started discussions. So the framework is in place. You want to talk about the elephant in the room, and I'll raise it here. So going forward, I think you need to put, going forward, that's the easy part. But how do you clean what's in the past? We've all put a lot of money into this infrastructure. It's all in our balance. It's all in our balance sheets. These have not been amortized. You tell us to remove our poles. Talk about billions and billions. So that discussion needs to happen. I don't think going forward, going into new areas, that's going to be the easy part. How we clean the things in the past, that's a discussion that really needs to happen. And concrete poles, no. Those do not make any financial sense. Otherwise, we're going to be passing that cost on to the consumer. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Julius. Like you rightly said, ulisahau unavyotoka, ujue napokwenda, si ndio? Next table. There's a table right, where's my microphone? There's that table over there. No? From them? Right there. Would love to hear from you.
Thank you. Michael Kasiri, Uganda Civil Aviation Authority. Mine is only a challenge to UCC, our partners in crime. Uganda Civil Aviation Authority is unique because it's a regulator, at the same time, it is a service provider. And in the telecom space, for which we are convening today, there are issues of technology, and technology has emerging, disruptive, and all innovative aspects. And for our dear regulator, UCC,
yes,
for these regulations, they have to, at least they shouldn't be prescriptive. How can they keep on changing, keeping up with these emerging technologies, with their disruptive technologies, for us to keep scaling and improving our scope, the telecom sector? And for me, that's what I want to leave with UCC for the coming forum. How do they keep on keeping on with the changes and not to be prescriptive in the approach of the regulations? Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Moses at the front here. I believe Moses is from the Office of the Prime Minister.
Yeah, allow me make my comments, rather contribution while standing. Colleagues, I appreciate this forum. I've been listening, and some of the issues being raised are very interesting in terms of well knowing the role of government and the role of the private sector. So as somebody coming from the Office of the Prime Minister, which has the overall mandate of coordinating the entire government in terms of delivery of services, in terms of delivering the policies, the programs, the project across the entire country. And in so doing, we embrace the concept of a whole of government approach. And as we were discussing here, I realized that there is a need for this forum to be part and parcel of the whole of government approach. So based on that, I need to really, first of all, give terms of what government's development agenda is all about.
Okay.
And this is where we link whatever we are raising. We need to know the government development agenda. And one of the principal frameworks that brings out the development agenda, we are now implementing the NDP4. And in the NDP4, we've got the strategic objectives. Now, whatever you've been raising here, if you try to unpack objective number 3 and objective number 4, I think we would only be interested in getting your views, and then those views link to the whole of government approach. Objective number 3 is talking about government supporting the private sector, okay, to drive economic growth and create jobs. Objective number 4 is to build and maintain sustainable infrastructure, strategic infrastructure. We are talking about transport, energy, ICT inclusive. So that means that whatever we are discussing here, if you go into the NDP4 and look at the interventions under those objectives, you'll be able to appreciate that really, because some of the issues that you've raised, I find that government has already thought about them. But now what I want us to, because now, you know, there is what we call low-hanging fruits. As Office of the Prime Minister, I would like to embrace this forum. And this forum, to me, in terms of coordination, is like a think tank. It's like a technical working group. So this think tank falls under the digital transformation program. So you contribute. That means that all these issues as a think tank, when you raise them through the coordination structure and the governance structure, once the ministry, the lead ministry for the program, is organizing leadership committee meetings, organizing program working group meetings, technical working group meetings, are you part and parcel of those structures? Because these issues are supposed to cascade through that process, such that by the time you come out of those meetings, you'll now be asking the ministry that during the program working meeting of this day, these were the issues that were raised. And has the program lead ministry taken them across? Now, for us as the entity that is supposed to or responsible for coordination, how do we now exploit this opportunity? We've been talking about issues of infrastructure sharing, and it's an issue that I've captured. As Office of the Prime Minister, we will be like establishing a platform. And this platform, we need to get those critical issues. But of course, also the issues coming from the lead ministry of the digital transformation program. And when these issues are brought to the Office of the Prime Minister, they're using the National Coordination Framework. This is how the issues will trickle from the technical, because I'm assuming this is now a technical working group. So when you come up with those issues, then we shall deliberate them at the Office of the Prime Minister. And they will cascade those issues that require policy intervention at higher level. They will be discussed at the Policy Coordination Committee, a committee which is chaired by the Prime Minister. And those issues that the Prime Minister feels should be discussed at cabinet level, they will cascade to cabinet. And I want to assure you, this is the best way, using the whole of government approach for some of these issues, not sometimes to remain. You know, it's like issues come out which are so critical, which actually require government intervention, but sometimes these issues are not deliberated upon. So that is really why I felt that I should share with you this, for us to be sure that we take on a whole of government approach by way of working with the program lead ministry. This forum should work with the program lead ministries, and they should actually, instead of like coming up with these resolutions, you should be part and parcel of the program working groups. You should be part and parcel of the technical working groups. So I thank you, and in the interest of time, really, that is what I wanted to say. But I know that at certain time, I will be contacting my colleagues in the Ministry of ICT so that we have an engagement at the Office of the Prime Minister. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Moses from the Office of the Prime Minister. We've heard from the government, we've heard from the regulator, we've heard from the ISPs. I want you to take that microphone. There's a gentleman in a flat cap at the back. Just go straight to the back over there. The gentleman in the flat cap can stand up. Don't look around. You're the only one wearing a hat. Yes. I think it would be great if we hear from a consumer as well.
Thank you very much. My name is Biwal. I am a citizen of the internet. And for purposes of today's conversation, unfortunately, I'm not a CEO, but I have three quick points I wanted to put across. First, Enoch was being very smart with his response about those service level agreements. But it would be nice to understand who I can complain to if there's downtime, caused by maybe power or fiber cuts or whatever it is, yeah? But the one thing that I have an issue with very many ISPs here is communication. Your communication sucks. And I say this honestly, yeah? Okay. I can't complain about an issue on Monday at 2 p.m. and I get a response on Tuesday at 6 p.m.
Okay.
That's an entire day that's gone to waste, right? Okay. If you looked at the most progressive companies, one of the things that they do very, very well is communication. And communication doesn't mean give me a solution. Communication means speak to me. If I tell you that my internet is down, I expect you to listen and sort of commiserate with me, yeah? And
so you're looking for empathy?
Among other things, yes. Okay. Among other things, yes, okay. Right? I know that, technicalities happen. You can't fix the problem right there and then. I know that. But you owe me a certain respect. You owe me that communication. I think ISPs here need to up their game by, 500%, because it sucks.
All right. Point the second.
Yes. Finally, I wanted to understand a bit about privacy with regards to information and data. This might not be the right platform, but a number of times you have this relationship with an ISP, right? You have this written agreement with them, but then somehow, somewhere, somebody else accesses your data. I want to know, are you guys selling our data? You probably not answer that, but I want to know whether our data is safe with you.
It's food for thought.
Yes.
You can leave it at food for thought.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Citizen of the Internet. Thank you very much. They ask these questions, and it might feel like you are in the room and the room is getting heated, but that is how critical you are, not just to everyday life, but also to the economy of this nation. And so we thank you for your contribution, and we acknowledge that while there might be some challenges, we know you are doing your best, and we thank you for that. Please put your hands together for yourselves.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I know I'm not the gentleman in a flat cap.
Yes.
But
I will give you 60 seconds.
No problem. I'm Ronette Ayebare, and I'm working with Global Consumer Center.
Yes, ma'am.
For consent. So for us, we have complaints that we get from consumers. And I wanted to talk about the top 3 that we had. The first one was about the infrastructure, and I'm glad that it was also the biggest complaint around that everyone was talking about.
Okay.
But the next that is the most common is fraud.
Fraud.
Yes.
Which is a good discussion we've had here as well.
Yeah, everyone has been talking about, oh, this one called me, this one called me. But up to date, we do not have information, maybe coming from the telecom companies, telling us these are the most common ways that people are being scammed.
Regardless of the Better Steady campaign, regardless of all the awareness campaigns that they do, people still don't have information?
We are able to talk to the consumers as well and tell them these are the issues and you can protect yourself in this way. Then the other problem that is also part of the scamming is about the SIM swaps. I'll have a number. Recently, someone sent me a message and said, don't contact this number anymore. It has been subbed out to someone else. So now how am I able to communicate to the 600 contacts that I have to tell them that now when you call the next time, I'm going to be Bosco on this number.
Okay.
So what is the criteria for doing that, and how can people be informed at least prior before their SIMs are swapped and given to other people? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. All right. I wish Nira was in the house as well. We'd also ask Nira that question. A question that I would love to ask, and this is purely from a personal perspective, is the issue of number portability. Maybe one day we will get there. But thank you so much for this discussion. If you could scan this QR code, the QR code that we have over here allows you to ask questions. I know you might have a burning question. Please use the QR code, submit that question. Those questions are going to be answered. UCC has most graciously volunteered to put themselves on the rack today. Ask them these questions. The regulator is in the house. Please ask your questions. Again, scan the QR code, and that QR code will enable you to share your question, whatever your question is, and then we can ask that question. Magaiva Mugamba from Uganda Communications Commission has the floor.
Good afternoon. I know I'm standing between your lunch, but I wanted to address B-Wall's question, more or less because I'm an expert on privacy. But I think the issue of privacy should not be looked at as a commission problem. I once had a very reputable government agency call me up, and one of their lawyers had no idea about privacy and data protection and the issue of notices and really the whole comprehensive cycle. And I had to take them through it. So the issue of privacy, even with entities, they need to interest themselves in it. They need to know, they need to have their personnel read up, they need to have their lawyers appreciate, they need to have data protection office. The good thing, we have the personal data protection office, that authority. You need to go there. I had a discussion with my colleague here. I know the approach of the PDPO office with regard to certified data protection officers is not sustainable because the whole country cannot have those trained personnel. But you as ISPs, you need to interest yourselves in the workings of privacy.
Okay.
It should not just be the role of UCC or PDPO. Find out, read, research, understand what it is. Because that's the only way you have first of all, you have a right over your information. You have a right to consent to your information being shared, and you can approach an operator on that aspect. It's an inherent right. I just wanted to make that clear.
We appreciate that, sir. Magaiva Mugamba is from the Uganda Communications Commission. Again, it's a poison chalice almost when you speak about the ISPs because, like I said, success is invisible. But the minute, actually the second your network goes down, everybody becomes a telecom expert. And I guess that's a good problem to have. It shows that you're doing your job. Before I leave and invite Engineer Christine Mujimba, I would like to point out the words a wise man once said when it came to the infrastructure thing. Is it an engineering problem or is it an economics problem? When it comes to microeconomics, how many options of ISPs should a household/SME have? And when it comes to macroeconomics, in a liberal broadband market, from how many ISPs should government collect license fees to fund its priorities? I leave that to you as food for thought. Allow me to invite the Director of Research at the Uganda Communications Commission, Engineer Christine Mujimba. Please, if you may take your seat. If you may take your seat for 1 second, just take your seat. Yeah, just take your seat for 1 second. For everybody else in the house, if you're happy and you know, clap your hands. Put your hands together for Engineer Christine Mujimba, from Director of Research at Uganda Communications Commission. If you didn't clap, you don't get a lunch coupon.
Is it good afternoon already? Yes, yeah. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, thank you for being here at the second Telecom Forum, where we have been discussing partnerships and how we can progress expansion and meaningful access to communication. So first, give all yourselves a great hand clap for your contributions in your various capacities, the CEOs here, representatives, and lastly, of course, those people who keep government and the service providers in check, our consumers, although they also have their obligations, and I hope they know them. So we have, as on behalf of UCC, it's always good to have such forums where we sort of get a mirror of whether what we are doing is working for the different players or is not working. And so it's always good to come here and listen in. Sometimes we have the answers, other times we don't, but we've definitely taken back all the Secretariat has taken back all the feedback in terms of what success looks like, and we'll continue working to ensure that the next time we meet, we have gone further in sorting out all the big points for the good of this nation. So yeah, thank you very much, and we remain open to this partnership. On behalf of UCC management and the ED who had to leave earlier, I would like to now welcome our board chair, Engineer Charity Basaza, to give her, doctor as well, to give her closing remarks. Thank you very much. Welcome her.
The UCC board members, the Executive Director, UCC, heads and representatives of government ministries, departments and agencies, distinguished chief executive officers and managing directors, consumer advocates and civil society representatives, ladies and gentlemen. It is with a profound sense of fulfillment and optimism that I rise to deliver these closing remarks on behalf of the board of the Uganda Communications Commission. Under the timely and inspiring theme, Partnerships Powering Progress, from coverage expansion and meaningful access to digital government excellence, we have moved beyond formal engagement into meaningful, solution-driven dialogue. The candor, openness, and collective commitment demonstrated throughout today's discussions reaffirm why this forum remains one of the most important platforms within Uganda's digital ecosystem. At the inaugural forum held last year, we identified several critical challenges affecting both consumers and the telecommunications sector. Today, we have received encouraging progress reports on the implementation of agreed action points, including the rollout of the Tochigeza campaign against infrastructure vandalism, operationalization of the Central Equipment Identity Register, establishment of the Anti-Fraud Committee. These are not merely institutional milestones, they represent tangible improvements in the everyday lives of millions of Ugandans. We commend all operators and stakeholders who have demonstrated commitment through action. At the same time, today's discussions clearly highlighted the important work that still lies ahead. These challenges are significant, but they are not insurmountable. They require coordinated action, shared responsibility, and sustained collaboration. The frank and constructive exchanges witnessed today between CEOs, regulators, MDAs, and consumer representatives demonstrate both the maturity and determination needed to address them collectively. We have taken note of these challenges, and they will be collaboratively addressed in partnership with the relevant ministries, regulators, and operators. Progress on the agreed interventions will be reviewed and presented at the next forum scheduled for next year. Ladies and gentlemen, under the leadership of His Excellency President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the government of Uganda has set an ambitious vision of transforming Uganda into a United States $500 billion economy. Information and communications technology is not simply a supporting sector in this journey. It is a critical enabler and accelerator of national transformation. We cannot achieve digital government excellence, modernize agriculture, industrialize our economy, or deliver efficient public services without reliable, affordable, and inclusive connectivity. The UCC board therefore calls upon all stakeholders present to translate today's rich deliberations into concrete, measurable, and time-bound commitments. The Commission will continue to play its role as an impartial, firm, and supportive regulator. Before we conclude, allow me to express sincere appreciation to the Executive Director and the entire UCC team for the excellent organization of this forum, to all CEOs and senior executives for prioritizing this engagement despite your demanding schedules, to our consumer representatives for articulating concerns with clarity and constructiveness, and to all supporting institutions, including MDAs, development partners, and civil society organizations for your invaluable contributions. As we leave this forum, let us carry forward not only the resolutions and discussions of today, but also a renewed commitment to place the Ugandan consumer at the center of every decision we make. Let us harness the power of genuine partnerships to accelerate Uganda's digital transformation and deliver meaningful impact to every citizen. For God and my country, I thank you.
Thank you very much, the board chair of the Uganda Communications Commission. There's a QR code right here on the screen. It's for our evaluation form. Please do scan it. It's a simple form that will take you less than a minute to fill in. For now, though, I want to thank you once again for your presence here, for everybody who contributed, for everybody who listened. Let whatever has been discussed not stay in this room, but let it guide your actions over the next 12 months when you come for the third Telecommunications CEO Forum, inshallah. For now, though, I want to thank you for your time, and our program has come to a close. Please do not leave. There is lunch for you, and they want you to eat this lunch. Have yourself a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you.